Chapter 252, Departure. The village chief hurriedly went in to take a look. The others also went over one after another. Yundong did not really want to go, but Madame Jiang dragged her there. There were 2 thick layers of bandages on Fu Ming's forehead. At this moment, he opened his eyes and looked at the person standing by the bed. In the end, her gaze landed on Widow's son. Widow's son frowned. This bastard had better not cause trouble at this time and not let the Gu family's mother and daughter leave. She still had to detoxify the poison. In the next moment, Fu Ming suddenly curled his fingers and chuckled. "Wife, I'm hungry." Everyone saw that he had become a fool again. They couldn't ask for his opinion now, so Widow's son had the final say. Since she did not mind and there was nothing wrong with Fu Ming, they could not hold on to 2 weak women. Besides, it was indeed Fu Ming who provoked her first. She was about to leave, but he insisted on stopping her and saying something inappropriate. The villagers left one after another. Widow's son was very anxious. She asked Yundong, "You guys should leave quickly too." "Alright, we're leaving soon." They had indeed wasted a lot of time. Today, they were going to speed up again. Seeing that there was no problem, Madame Jiang quickly carried the small jar out to her. "Here, take it. If you pass by here again in the future, I'll marinate another jar for you. It won't take much effort." "Thank you, Aunt." Yundong had left a small bag of white sugar in the house. The village chief and Madame Jiang treated them well. Even if such a thing happened, they did not speak ill of them. Madame Jiang even tipped them off and helped them criticize Widow's son. White sugar was indeed expensive outside, but this was the most she had now. It was not shabby to give it away. Widow's son was extremely anxious. Why was he still talking at a time like this? Was there no end to it? Madame Jiang glanced at her suspiciously, but Yundong smiled and got into the carriage. Widow's son had been following beside the carriage. When Madame Jiang could no longer see them, she asked, "Where's the antidote? Do you think I'm stupid to give it to you without leaving the village?" Yundong sat on the shaft of the carriage and said slowly, "Wait here for half an hour. When the time comes, I'll write a method to detoxify the poison and place it under the 2nd tree at the entrance of the village. I'll press it with a rock. But I can't read." "Can't you find someone you know to read to you? Anyway, it doesn't matter if others see the antidote." Widow's son could only stop in her tracks. "You have to keep your word." "Of course. You've already let me go. Wouldn't I be courting death if I harmed your life again?" Yundong shook the reins and the carriage immediately sped up. Widow's son paced back and forth for a while before she could not take it anymore. She could not wait for more than half an hour. It did not take long for her to catch up. When she reached the village entrance and found the 2nd tree, she saw a note. Widow's son quickly took it out and rushed to the village chief's house. Madame Jiang was tidying up the guest room when she saw the bag of white sugar. She took it out to study it with the village chief. "What the hell is this?" "I don't know." Madame Jiang shook her head, then suddenly slapped her head. By the way, there was a small note under it at that time. Take a look at what was written on it. The village chief quickly took it and read with narrowed eyes, "White sugar. You can make sugar water or use it as a seasoning to make sweet food. Thank you for your hospitality." Madame Jiang was delighted. White sugar. The Gu family's girl gave us white sugar. It's so white. It must be very expensive. Before she could finish speaking, Widow's son's noisy voice came from the door. Madame Jiang hurriedly put away the white sugar and covered it under the blanket. The next moment, she saw her barging. The village chief's expression was ugly. "What do you want now?" Chapter 253, Completely crippled. Widow's son was panting. She did not care about his expression and hurriedly took out the paper and handed it over. "Quick, help me see what's written on it." The village chief took it impatiently. "Huh," he said. The words on it were written with charcoal, just like the note Madame Jiang had brought just now. He raised his head and glanced at Widow's son strangely. The latter was extremely anxious. "Why are you looking at me? Hurry up and read it. Can't you be a little nicer when you're begging?" The village chief snorted and began to read the words on it. "My Lisu. It's a candy. It tastes great. Take it as a snack and drink more water, and it will keep you in good health. You have to admit that you're too old. If you're sick in the head, treat it quickly. See you again." He chuckled. "Who wrote this? It's quite poetic." Widow's son's face was ashen, and her fingers were trembling. However, she still asked unwillingly, "That's all? Is there nothing else?" "That's it. B*TCH, big B*TCH, little B*TCH, you actually lied to me. You actually lied to me." Widow's son snatched the paper from the village chief's hand and tore it into pieces. She was still angry and stomped on it a few more times, almost creating a hole in the village chief's soil. The next moment, she suddenly raised her head and asked with a grimace, "Who are that mother and daughter surnamed Gu? Where do they live? Where are they going?" The village chief frowned. "How would I know? How could you not know?" Madame Jiang said angrily, "Be reasonable. She's only here to stay for the night. She left immediately after the night. Why would she tell us these things?" "Ah!" Widow's son screamed, turned around, and ran out. She had to ask Fu Ming. Fu Ming must know where the mother and daughter lived in Yongning village. He must know. Widow's son waited for Fu Ming to wake up, but after that, Fu Ming never woke up again. Later on, Widow's son found out that he was not even a man. She was so angry that she smashed more than half of the pots and pans in the kitchen. That day, the doctor was only in a hurry to help Fu Ming look at the wound on his head. At that time, the blood flow was so shocking that even the surrounding people forgot that he had been hit by Gu Yundong in the crotch. When Fu Ming woke up, he became a fool again. He only felt uncomfortable down there and didn't know how to say it. As a result, he delayed the treatment and became a cripple in some aspect. Widow's son couldn't take it anymore and chased Fu Ming out. However, even though Fu Ming was retarded, he still remembered Widow's son's house. He could find it himself. He even became irritable. If Widow's son chased him away again, he would hit her. Then, Widow's son starved him and kept him cold. She tried to trick him into leaving Fugui village. Then, Fu Ming came back and continued to hit her. The two of them repeated this cycle, and the days became more and more difficult. Gu Yundong left Fugui village in a good mood. Madame Yang also smiled and came out to sit on the shaft of the carriage. She held her hand and said, "Dong Dong is so awesome. Mother is also powerful." Gu Yundong turned her head. "But don't rush to the bad guys in the future." Fu Ming fell to the ground and did not have the ability to fight back. If you encounter someone who fights back, Mother will be injured. Madame Yang didn't know if she understood, but she tilted her head and suddenly pointed into the distance. "We've been there before." Gu Yundong followed her finger and saw that she had been here before. Back then, they had also passed by here when they were pulling the pushcart from Qingyuan Prefecture to Xuanhe Prefecture. After walking for another 5 to 6 days, the carriage finally arrived at Qingyuan Prefecture. Chapter 254, Dr. Song is here. The last time they came to Qingyuan Prefecture, they did not enter the city gate. This time, he did, but the prefectural city here was much more desolate than the Xuanhe Prefecture. It couldn't be helped. It hadn't been long since the chaos last year. It was said that not only was the prefecture magistrate killed in the Qingyuan prefecture, but many of the wealthy and influential people in the city had also become fat meat for those bandits. They directly barged into other people's residences to kill and snatch. The civilians were even more in trouble. Those who dodged quickly escaped, but those who did not could only be killed when they encountered those inhumane bandits. The refugees only snatched things, but it was also easy to get into conflicts. Many of them were killed or injured. That chaos had caused the Qingyuan prefecture to suffer heavy losses. Yundong led the carriage all the way and saw that many shops on the street had been destroyed and had to be renovated. There were many stalls along the way. Yundong bought some food from Madame Yang and inquired about the location of Huimin Medical Center. Huimin Medical Center seemed to be quite famous. Soon, someone pointed ahead and said, "Walk to the end here and turn left. You'll reach it after walking for a while." Yundong thanked him and sped up. She did not know if Dr. Song was in Qingyuan prefecture. She hoped that he had already arrived and that he had not left. When they arrived at Huimin Medical Center, Yundong saw that there were many people waiting outside. A waiter saw her and quickly asked her to park the carriage at the side before queuing up. Yundong saw that her carriage was blocking the way, so she quickly led it to the side and parked it. Then, she brought Madame Yang to the shop assistant's side. "Little brother, I'm looking for the shopkeeper of your medical center." The waiter was stunned for a moment. He looked at Yundong, who was half a head shorter than him. "Little brother." The shop assistant tried his best to ignore the way she addressed him. He coughed lightly and said, "Who are you? Why are you looking for our shopkeeper?" "I came from the Shuanhe prefecture. Doctor, he introduced me." As he spoke, Yundong took out a letter from his sleeve. "This is Dr. He's personal letter." The shop assistant knew that there was a Dr. He in the Shuanhe prefecture. He had been here last time. He hurriedly led Yundong inside. "Wait here for a while. I'll go look for the shopkeeper." With that, he took Yundong's letter and ran to the backyard. After a while, the shop assistant came out. "Our shopkeeper invites you in. Follow me." Yundong brought Madame Yang and followed the shop assistant into the backyard. The manager of Huimin Medical Center was a middle-aged man in his 40s. He was holding a herb in the backyard and talking to a doctor. Seeing them come over, the shopkeeper asked the doctor to go to the front hall first. "I've read Dr. He's letter. I know why you're here." The shopkeeper let them sit. He glanced at Madame Yang and asked, "The patient is this madam, right?" Madame Yang hid slightly behind. Dr. He's letter was not very detailed. After all, he was not very familiar with Yundong. He only asked the shopkeeper to help if he could. It would be good if he could fulfill Miss Gus' filial piety. However, if Dr. Song did not agree, he could not force him. The shopkeeper was just a middleman and a matchmaker. "Yes." Yundong held Madame Yang's hand and asked anxiously, "Is Dr. Song in Qingyuan prefecture?" The shopkeeper saw her subtle movements and sighed in his heart. "Dr. Song is in Qingyuan prefecture, but what?" Yundong quickly asked. Chapter 255, Familiar Child. The shopkeeper said, "It's just that I don't know where he is now." Seeing Yundong frown, he said, "He went to treat a patient. I heard that he's an important patient. I can't ask where he lives." Yundong heaved a sigh of relief. It was fine as long as he was still in Qingyuan prefecture. When will he be back? That's hard to say. The shopkeeper shook his head. Dr. Song arrived the afternoon before yesterday. He just came to get some medicine and left. He didn't even have the time to take a break or drink a cup of tea. He hasn't come back since the afternoon before yesterday. Yundong frowned. So long. But don't worry, Dr. Song's things are still in Huimin Medical Center. He will definitely come again. Gu Yundong pursed his lips. It seemed that she could only wait. She looked up at the shopkeeper, pursed her lips, and took out a bag of white sugar from her bag. Thank you for telling me this, shopkeeper Chao. Please accept this as a thank you gift. Shopkeeper Chao quickly refused. I can't accept this. I just read Dr. He's letter and said a few words. Halfway through his sentence, he suddenly stopped and his gaze landed on the white sugar in the bag. He took it and widened his eyes to carefully identify it. Was it really sugar? Shopkeeper Chao could be considered experienced and knowledgeable. He knew what was the most popular thing in the capital recently. It was the white sugar made by this imperial court. It was said that the influential families in the capital had gone crazy fighting for it. Nowadays, this thing did not only mean that you were rich, but it also represented your status. This was because this thing was rare. Those young masters and young ladies in the capital were all competitive. Today, at the banquet, those who were admiring the flowers and serving pastries had to say that the cake was made of rare white sugar. The sweeter it was, the more it meant that your family was powerful. The owner of Huimin Medical Center had also bought some. However, there were many Huimin Medical Centers in Dajiang. If each family got a little, they wouldn't even have a chance to feel the sweetness. Shopkeeper Chao had kept the white sugar very well, but he did not expect this girl to take out a bag with one hand. There should be at least 2 caddies inside, right? If this girl gave him money, he really wouldn't accept it. But sugar, shopkeeper Chao was in a dilemma. Gu Yundong naturally saw the change in his expression, so she added, actually, I still want to ask shopkeeper Chao for a favor. I'll go to the inn next door to get a room later. If Dr. Song comes back, please ask the staff in the medical center to inform me immediately. What do you think? Sure, of course. Yes, now he could accept the white candy in peace. However, in the next moment, he suddenly thought of something and hurriedly said, Are you planning to stay in the inn next door? Then you have to hurry. That inn's business is very good. If you go late, there won't be any good rooms. Gu Yundong hurriedly thanked him and left with Madame Yang. She was quite lucky. When she booked the room, there was only one upper room left. Then, there was a large bunk. Gu Yundong quickly handed over the money. Just as it was settled, someone asked about the room. She heaved a sigh of relief and brought Madame Yang upstairs with the waiter. As soon as she entered the room, she put down her bag and asked Madame Yang to wait for her here. She went to the medical center again and told shopkeeper Chao her room number. At the same time, she brought the carriage to the stable of the inn. Then, she walked back to the hall and asked the waiter for a meal to send to her room. Unexpectedly, as soon as she entered, she saw a familiar child. Chapter 256, Where are you taking my brother? Gu Yundong could not help but take a few more glances, but a tall and thin man carrying the child glared at her fiercely. What are you looking at? Then, he hurried away. In that moment, Gu Yundong suddenly remembered where she had seen this child before. Wasn't it one of the 2 fair and chubby children who lived next door to the farmhouse's courtyard when they were escaping? Coincidentally, this was the little boy Gu Yundong had seen before. When she was escaping from the wilderness, the children she saw were all sallow, thin, and on the verge of death. Therefore, the 2 pink children were too conspicuous and left an impression in her mind. She remembered that the person who had brought the children back then was the man who was known as Uncle Gao. One look at their clothes and she knew that they were rich. But now, the child was wearing a burlap shirt, and so was the tall and thin man. Moreover, his expression was gloomy, as if he was flustered and uneasy. When he saw her take a few more glances, he immediately became fierce and quickened his footsteps. This was very wrong. If that child's family became poor, he wouldn't be able to afford to wear good clothes, but his face was still chubby, fair, and tender. It was obvious that he had been pampered since he was young. Moreover, although the child was sleeping with his eyes closed, there were obvious tears on his face. Gu Yundong's expression turned cold. Seeing the man walk out of the inn, she immediately ran over and blocked him. "Who are you? Where are you taking my brother?" The man was stunned and his expression changed. "What did you say? Who's your brother?" "This is my son." "Huh, son? Doesn't look like it at all." "Nonsense. My younger brother clearly followed elder brother Gao out to look for me." "When did he become your son?" For the sake of caution, Gu Yundong added. If this person was really this child's father, he would definitely know brother Gao. "What brother Gao? Get lost." As the man spoke, he winked to the side. Soon, a few people surrounded them. Very good, it was confirmed that they were human traffickers, and there were accomplices. After all, Gu Yundong knew the child and had killed animals together. Brother Gao had even given her a bag of steamed buns and pancakes. When she encountered such a thing, she had to interfere. Gu Yundong suddenly stepped forward and took the initiative. She grabbed his little finger and pulled it out. When he let go of the child in pain, she instantly snatched the child and took a few steps back. Then, she shouted at the onlookers, "This is a baby stealer. Everyone, catch him quickly." The man's expression changed drastically as he shouted in a low voice, "You're the wild girl who came from nowhere. That's my son. Return the child to me, do you hear me? Everyone, help me. I don't know who instructed this girl to take my son away." As he spoke, the man's accomplices immediately swarmed forward. "Miss, you're too young. How can you do such a thing? That's right. Hurry up and return the child to him. Didn't you see that the father and son are both wearing the same clothes? When the time comes, apologize properly. No one will blame you. Don't do such a thing next time. Look at the way you're carrying the child. It's pitiful. Don't hurt the child." As he spoke, 3 to 4 people moved to snatch the child. When the onlookers heard this, they were a little hesitant. The 3 of them all said the same. Everyone stood on the side of the tall and thin man. The others naturally thought that the 2 of them were father and son. Chapter 257, Captured. Gu Yundong frowned and kicked a middle-aged woman who had come to snatch the child away. The other 3 were stunned. The tall and thin man's face flashed with ruthlessness. He gave them a look and the 3 of them came over at the same time. Some held her hand, some hugged the child, some pulled her hair, and some pinched her arm. But before these people could touch her, Gu Yundong nimbly bumped into the weakest-looking person and kicked him between his legs. That person immediately bent down in pain. Gu Yundong flashed past him and ran into the inn. She said to the people present who still did not understand, "These people are all in cahoots. They're the ones who are kidnapping. If you don't believe me, report it to the officials. I'll wait in this inn for the officials to arrest me." The waiter in the inn suddenly came back to his senses. This girl was their guest and had brought her mother, who seemed to be a little silly. From her gentle and polite words, it was obvious that she was knowledgeable. She asked him to help take care of her mother, and she was exceptionally friendly with a smile. She even tipped him a tael of silver. Therefore, he was definitely on Gu Yundong's side. He immediately reached out to block Gu Yundong and said to the few people who had run up to snatch the child, "This lady is staying here. But you're not a guest of our inn, right? You're not here to eat, so how did you get out of my inn?" The man's expression changed drastically. He took a small step back and said, I brought the child to borrow the toilet." In fact, he had sneaked in from the backyard behind a guest's carriage when no one was paying attention and took the opportunity to leave through the front door. When the onlookers heard Gu Yundong's words, they almost leaned towards her. If she was really a kidnapper, would she dare to speak so confidently about reporting to the officials? After hearing the waiter's words, she was even more convinced that these people were not good people. After all, they knew the waiter. He couldn't be a bad person, right? The few kidnappers felt that something was amiss. Everyone looked at them strangely. Knowing that the situation was hopeless, and the child could not be snatched back, they understood each other and turned to leave. However, that tall and thin man was a thorn in everyone's side. How could he leave? He was quickly stopped. Still, his accomplices saw that the situation was not good and wanted to hide in the crowd and leave in several different directions. Gu Yundong's eyes turned sharp. And those few are his accomplices. I saw them signaling with their eyes. As she spoke, she saw a tea set on the table beside her. She handed the child to the waiter and smashed the teacups on their heads. As the teacup fell to the ground, the few people were instantly exposed and caught by the surrounding commoners. The few of them immediately struggled. Let go of me. I just thought that you were snatching someone's child. Who's in cahoots? Me too. I don't know them. Gu Yundong sneered. Since you're innocent, wait here for the officials to come. Anyway, you're so enthusiastic. You definitely don't mind being witnesses. I still have something urgent to do, the woman hurriedly said. I still have to go home and cook for my husband. If he doesn't see me when he comes back, he'll be anxious. That's easy. Where is your house? I'll pay someone to send a message to your house. If what you say is true, I'll even treat your husband to a meal here. How about that? 111. Now that she could not say it, everyone believed that Gu Yundong was a good person. Chapter 258. Awake. Gu Yundong looked down at the child in the waiter's arms. She took the child and said to the waiter, please help me find a doctor from the Huimin Medical Center next door. I'm worried that this child has been drugged by them. The waiter nodded repeatedly and turned to run. I'll go now. The shopkeeper, who had been silent all this while, also said, "Till get someone to find the officials." "Miss, don't worry. Our Qingyuan prefecture's officials are not bad." Of course, they were not bad. Ever since the last chaos, there had been a huge change in the Qingyuan prefecture. In addition, the new emperor had ascended the throne with sharp methods. He had directly sent a trusted prefecture magistrate over, and even the governance of the officials below had become much clearer. Gu Yundong thanked him, and the waiter happened to invite a doctor over. Perhaps the doctor next door had also heard the commotion and knew that the matter had started. As soon as he came over, he took the child over and looked at him carefully. After a long while, he heaved a sigh of relief and said, "He's fine." He was knocked unconscious. As he spoke, he took a silver needle and pricked him slightly. Soon, the child frowned and groaned. He slowly opened his eyes. He looked around in confusion. "Who are you?" Gu Yundong asked him, "Do you still remember what happened before you fell asleep?" "What happened before?" The little boy scratched his head. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something and sat up straight. "Bad people were trying to catch me." Gu Yundong pointed at the tall and thin man. "Was that him?" When the child saw this, he immediately hid in Gu Yundong's direction. "It's him. He took me away when my sister Liang was buying me candy. He didn't care when I cried and even hit me." As he spoke, his body could not help but tremble violently. When everyone heard this, they were certain that this man was a kidnapper. The few people holding him stared at him tightly to prevent him from escaping. The waiter said to the child, "You've met a kidnapper." Fortunately, this girl saw that something was wrong and saved you. Otherwise, you wouldn't know where you would be sold. The child was stunned. When he looked at Gu Yundong again, his eyes sparkled. Thank you, sister. You're welcome. Gu Yundong stroked his head. He seemed to be about the same age as Yunshu. Although it had only been more than 10 days since she left Yongfu village, she still missed him and Yunke. Your sister Liang must be very anxious when she saw that you were gone. Where did you buy candy and split up? The child shook his head. I don't know either. I just remember, before he could finish speaking, a commotion came from outside the inn. A few officials followed closely behind, as well as a maidservant who looked to be no more than 15 or 16 years old. When the maidservant saw the child, she immediately cried tears of joy. Young master, it's really you. Young master, this is great. Sister Liang. The child hurriedly called out to her, but he remained in Gu Yundong's arms. Liang Jing wiped her face. As soon as she realized that the child was gone, she searched nearby, but she couldn't find him at all. She quickly went to the government office to report the case. Fortunately, the government office was not far away. Unexpectedly, she happened to encounter someone who came over to report a matter. A child was saved and they asked the sheriff to go over and take a look. When Liang Jing heard that he seemed to be her young master, she hurriedly followed him. Thank goodness the young master was fine and appeared in front of her safely. Chapter 259, Dr. Song is back. The shopkeeper had already told the official what had happened in detail. Liang Jing heard it clearly and was immediately grateful to Gu Yundong. Tears welled up in her eyes. Miss, thank you so much. If it weren't for you, I don't know what would have happened to my young master. I could have only apologized with my life. You're my benefactor. I'll kowtow to you. Gu Yundong was shocked and quickly reached out to pull her back. Don't. I'll help anyone when I see injustice. If you're grateful to me, pay the doctor's consultation fee. Liang Jing was stunned and did not know whether to laugh or cry. She quickly took out her money bag. Yes, of course. She paid the doctor before thanking Gu Yundong again and again. The leader of the officers also laughed out loud. Miss, you're right. When you see injustice on the road, you have a chivalrous heart. This time, not only does this child's family have to thank you, but we also have to thank you. You don't know, a few days ago, on the night of the Lantern Festival, kidnappers appeared to specialize in abducting children. These few days, we've been looking for them. We've finally found these bastards. As he spoke, the officer kicked the tall and thin man hard. Bastard, you still dare to glare at me. Previously, someone reported that the kidnapper had a mole on his nose. This person is you, right? Come back to the office with us and tell us where the other children are. Let's go. The official waved his hand. And the few of you, don't shout that you're innocent. Well, know if you're innocent when you go to the government office. Take them away. Then, he said to Gu Yundong, Miss, are you coming too? Gu Yundong thought about how she still had to wait for Dr. Song and Madame Yang was alone upstairs. How could she leave in peace? She knew that it would take a lot of time for witnesses to record their statements in the modern world, let alone here. They would probably have to argue repeatedly. After thinking for a moment, she said to the officer, I'm really sorry. I can't leave this place now. The waiter saw what happened just now. Can I ask him to make a trip on my behalf? You can ask him if there are any details you need to know. I'm staying in this inn. If there's anything that needs my help, I'll go over. The officer saw that she was in a difficult position and thought about it. He felt that it was not a big problem, so he nodded. All right. Then, he left with the kidnappers. As the victim, the child was also carried by Liang Jing. The crowd gradually dispersed, but there were still many people who nodded at Gu Yundong. Gu Yundong could not wait to go upstairs. She pushed open the door and saw Madame Yang sitting obediently in front of the table, staring at the puzzle on the table. Gu Yundong had unintentionally found it in her storage. She did not know when she had put it in, but it was a very simple wooden jigsaw puzzle. The image was of two cute little animals. She saw that Madame Yang was bored sometimes when she was alone in the carriage, so she took it out for her to play with. Madame Yang liked it very much. When she got it, she was overjoyed. She actually knew how to assemble the pieces, but she still couldn't bear to let it go. She enjoyed doing it repeatedly. When she saw Gu Yundong enter, she turned around and smiled at her. "Dong dong, I heard that it was so lively downstairs. It was so noisy. But I obediently didn't open the door or go out to take a look. Look at how I worked." The time was short again. Gu Yundong went forward to take a look and immediately praised, "Mother is getting better and better. Yes, he'll play a few more times. When I get home, I'll be able to teach Ashu and Kiki." When the time came, they would think that their mother was very powerful. It was rare for Gu Yundong to see Madame Yang with such a sense of accomplishment. She smiled and nodded. After dinner, she took Madame Yang to rest. The next morning, Gu Yundong had just packed up and was about to go to Huimin Medical Center when there was a knock on the door. She opened the door and saw that it was the staff of the medical center. The shop assistant said to her happily, "Miss Gu, Dr. Song is back." Chapter 260, Gao Feng's visit. Gu Yundong was stunned, and her face lit up with joy. "Really, bring us there." She turned around and wanted to call out to Madame Yang, who was still sleeping on the bed. Madame Yang usually woke up earlier than her, but for some reason, she woke up from a nightmare in the middle of the night yesterday. She called out to Gu Dajiang, and it was almost dawn before she fell asleep again. The shop assistant hurriedly said, "Miss Gu, our shopkeeper said that Dr. Song seemed to have come back to get the medicine. I don't know when he will leave. If we don't see him quickly, I'm afraid we won't be able to see him again." Gu Yundong could not be bothered to wake up Madame Yang. She had to see Dr. Song first and get the man to agree to treat her mother before bringing Madame Yang over. Hence, she nodded. "All right, I'll go over now." The shop assistant went downstairs and Gu Yundong went out to close the door. She happened to see the waiter coming over and asked him to help watch over here. If her mother woke up, he would tell her mother that she had gone out and would be back soon. Then, she hurried to Huimin Medical Center. Not long after she left, Gao Feng carried by Yang in. "This is the inn." The little thing in his arms nodded vigorously. "Yes, yes, yes. This is the place." Gao Feng went to ask the shopkeeper, "Is the girl who saved this child yesterday here?" The shopkeeper did not notice and called the waiter over. Coincidentally, the waiter did not see the shop assistant coming to look for Gu Yundong. He did not know where she had gone. Still, that girl said that she would be back soon. Her mother is still in her room. Gao Feng raised his head and looked in the direction of the second floor. After some thought, he found a seat and sat down. "Then let's wait here. Since she would be back soon, it shouldn't be long." Bai Yang was also very regretful. "Why isn't Sister Gu here? I was so frightened yesterday that I didn't thank her properly." Gao Feng lowered his eyes and retracted his coldness. He patted his head gently. "It's fine. It won't be too late to thank her when we see her later." The two of them ordered some food and waited for Gu Yundong to return. Meanwhile, Gu Yundong was following shopkeeper Chao to the backyard. "Dr. Song is looking for herbs in the pharmacy in the backyard. I'll go in and ask him later. Wait outside." After all, he had accepted a bag of white sugar. Shopkeeper Chao was still very friendly. Gu Yundong nodded and stopped at the entrance of the pharmacy. Shopkeeper Chao went in alone and saw Dr. Song frowning as he looked at the herbs in his hand. Dr. Song, there's a girl outside who came all the way from the Shuanhe prefecture to look for you. She wants you to treat her mother. Song Dajiang lowered his head as if he did not see or hear Shopkeeper Chao. He only muttered something. Shopkeeper Chao could not help but swallow his saliva. He tried again and said, Dr. Song. That girl is outside. Her mother's condition is quite serious. I pity her filial piety. Aren't you annoying? Why should I treat her mother? Can't you see that I'm annoyed? Get lost. Song Dajiang raised his head. He was fierce and irritable. His eyes were a little bloodshot, and he looked like he had not slept well for the past 2 days. Shopkeeper Chao was scolded badly. He wiped his face and was about to leave. However, after all, he had accepted the girl's sugar. Before he left, he still said, that girl was introduced by Dr. He from the Shuanhe prefecture. There's also a handwritten letter from Dr. He. Chapter 261, No Treating. What's great about Dr. He's introduction? Do I have to treat her just because he introduced her? Do you think I have nothing better to do? I haven't settled my own matters. No matter what illness you have, get lost and don't disturb me. Song Dajiang was furious. He raised his hand, grabbed a pen from the table beside him, and threw it. Shopkeeper Chao immediately did not dare to say anything else. He hurriedly left with his face covered in dust. He looked at Gu Yundong, who was standing at the door, and shook his head with a sigh. Did you hear that? Let's go. Song Dajiang's voice was so loud that Gu Yundong naturally heard him clearly. She could not help but frown fiercely. Her mother's illness could not be delayed. She immediately wanted to go in herself. Shopkeeper Chao quickly stopped her. Don't go. Dr. Song has just returned from his important patient's house. His eyes are red. It seems that he has spent a lot of effort on the patient. He's currently thinking about the prescription and has a bad temper. At this time, he'll only be more annoyed no matter what you say. It's better to wait and think of another way. Song Dajiang was not a doctor of Huimin Medical Center. He was a distinguished guest of their boss. This guy was just a shopkeeper of a small branch. He did not dare to offend him or order him around. Gu Yundong could only stop, but she was a little anxious. Shopkeeper Chao brought her to the front hall and waited a little longer. Later, when Dr. Song was in a better mood, he might treat her mother. Gu Yundong simply sat in a corner of the clinic, but her eyes were fixed on the exit of the backyard, afraid that Dr. Song would leave again. How could she get him to agree? Should she just kidnap him? No, what if this old man got angry and stabbed her mother to death with a needle? Money? Dr. Song didn't seem to lack money. White sugar. It could be used. And, as a doctor, what attracted him the most were probably medical skills and herbs. It was a pity that she did not know medicine. As for medicinal herbs, Gu Yundong's eyes were empty. Actually, she was rummaging through the spatial storage. After she dug out a pile of Western medicine, she sighed secretly. As she was thinking, Dr. Song suddenly rushed out with a smile on his face. Gu Yundong hurriedly stood up and ran over. Dr. Song, please wait. I can't wait. Song Dajiang waved his hand without looking back and ran out in large strides. Gu Yundong was so angry that she almost laughed. She did not expect this old man to be so fast despite his old age. She wanted to follow, but shopkeeper Chao came over to stop her. Gu Yundong took a deep breath. Shopkeeper Chao. I don't think I should give you white sugar. Shopkeeper Chao laughed dryly. Miss Gu, listen to my advice. Don't get into trouble at this time. From the looks of it, Dr. Song must have thought of the prescription and is going to treat his patient. If you stop him at this time, he will definitely be angry. Don't worry, Dr. Song didn't take his things with him. He will still come back. Gu Yundong pursed her lips and did not chase after him. You'll have to trouble shopkeeper Chao to inform me when the time comes. Of course, of course. Shopkeeper Chao nodded repeatedly. Gu Yundong glanced at him and was about to leave when she suddenly thought of something. She turned her head and asked him, "What does Dr. Song like?" Shopkeeper Chao understood when he heard that. This was to suit his taste. However, he was really not too sure about this. After all, he had only met Dr. Song a few times and had only interacted with him for less than 4 hours. There was nothing he could do. Gu Yundong wanted to vomit blood. She turned around and returned to the inn. Chapter 262, Little Sun and Little Moon. When the waiter saw her, he quickly ran over. "Oh, Miss Gu is too unlucky." "What is it? Didn't you save that child yesterday? Today, an uncle brought him here to thank you. He sat in the hall for a while and just left." "An uncle?" Gu Yundong immediately thought of Uncle Gao. It could be seen that he was cold on the outside but warm on the inside. The last time she saw him, he immediately became gentle when facing a child. It was not surprising that he would come to thank her in person. Gu Yundong said to the waiter, "If they come again, tell them not to be so polite." "It's nothing." "Sure thing." Only then did Gu Yundong go upstairs and bring Madame Yang out for dinner. At this moment, Gao Feng was still on a carriage not far from the inn. When he saw Song Dajiang lift the curtain and come up, he hurriedly went forward and asked, "Do you have the prescription?" Song Dajiang nodded repeatedly and laughed loudly. He took out a bag from his pocket. "I was really blind. I was stuck in a dead end. If I hadn't seen this in the pharmacy, I wouldn't have thought of it. Let's go back and try." Gao Feng poked his head over to take a look. It was the bag of white sugar that shopkeeper Chao had hidden tightly. "Sugar? Could this cure disease?" Song Dajiang nodded. "Actually, I don't have to use white sugar, but this little thing gave me an idea and enlightened me. Moreover, this sugar is thin and white. It's rare. I should give this to little Bai." The corners of Gao Feng's mouth twitched, but he was still very excited. "Then let's go back quickly." "Yes, yes." Song Dajiang waved his hand, and the carriage quickly moved. He was happily thinking about the prescription in his mind. After a long time, he finally noticed Bai Yang, who was sitting quietly at the side. He could not help but ask curiously, "Little son, why aren't you saying anything? Are you unhappy that there's a prescription for your uncle's illness?" "Of course I'm happy." Bai Yang immediately retorted, but he quickly sighed again. "But I didn't see Sister Gu today." "Oh, the sister who saved you when you went out with Liang Jing to buy candied plums for your uncle yesterday?" "Yes." Bai Yang sighed faintly. Song Dajiang waved his hand. "It's fine. You'll meet her again if you don't see her this time. Didn't you say that she has something to do in Qingyuan Prefecture and won't leave for the time being?" When Bai Yang heard this, he immediately perked up and nodded vigorously. "Yes, I'll come again next time." As they spoke, the carriage stopped at the entrance of a quiet courtyard house. Gao Feng carried Bai Yang down and saw Bai Yu looking around the door. The little girl and Bai Yang were twins. When she saw them, she immediately ran over. "Brother, you're finally back." "Sister, long time no see." Bai Yang held her hand and looked like they had reunited after a long time. The corners of Song Dajiang's mouth twitched. Weren't they separated for less than 4 hours? There was so much drama. After the group of people entered, Dajiang quickly went to prepare the medicine. Feng brought the 2 children to the room to see Dajiang. The young man was only 15 or 16 years old, but his face was pale and he did not look well. Dajiang lay by the bed and called him softly, "Brother Bai." "Call me little uncle," Dajiang reminded him with a smile. Dajiang pouted. "You're only a little older than me." He was clearly 10 years older, but this was considered a little. Dajiang came in not long after. He sat on the edge of the bed and took his pulse. After that, he snorted coldly. "Serves you right. You haven't recovered from your internal injuries to begin with, yet you still ran to Yongning Prefecture. It's not like you don't know that it's chaotic over there. Great, there's even a problem with your eyes. I heard that the girl is from Yongning Prefecture, so I went to look for her." Chapter 263, Searching for the Girl Who Escaped. "Isn't there Feng? Can't we just get Feng to look for her?" Dajiang snorted coldly, thinking that he was just messing around. Dajiang coughed slightly. "It's true that I didn't consider it carefully. It's just that I was a little anxious at that time, so I couldn't care less. Moreover, my internal injuries had already recovered a lot. I didn't expect it to relapse after this trip." It was easy for him to admit his mistake, so Dajiang did not say anything else. He only muttered, "You also said that the girl fled all the way from Yongning Prefecture. There are always accidents on the way. What if she..." Before Dajiang could say anything, Feng shook his head firmly. "There won't be any accidents. That girl is soft on the outside but tough on the inside. Although I've only spoken to her a few times, it can be seen from the fact that she can kill someone without hesitation. She's the kind of person who can be safe in a chaotic world." Dajiang glanced at him. "You quite admire this girl. It's a pity that I only thought that we met by chance and wouldn't interact with each other in the future, so I didn't ask her name and background. If I knew more, I might be able to find her sooner." Dajiang shook his head. "On the way to escape, it's a big taboo to talk too much. She might not tell you the truth. If nothing unexpected happens, that girl will most likely come to Qingyuan Prefecture. Unfortunately, Qingyuan Prefecture is in chaos. It's hard to say where she will go." Dajiang saw that the 2 of them were shaking their heads and the 2 younger ones were sighing faintly. He could not help but twitch his lips and ask softly, "Then have you ever thought that perhaps, that thing is not with that girl?" Of course, they had thought about it, but, at least for now, she's our only lead. Alright, they could only continue searching. Dajiang went out again and began to concoct medicinal ingredients. Before finding the target, he had to have a healthy body. Meanwhile, Yundong waited in the inn for another 2 days. Just as she was about to get impatient, there was a knock on the door. Yundong was sitting by the window and staring downstairs. She had been sitting here for most of the day. Coincidentally, under the window of her room was the backyard of Huimin Medical Center. Shopkeeper Chao said that when Dr. Song returned, he usually entered from the backyard. Therefore, she thought that since she was waiting for him, she might as well keep an eye on him while enjoying the scenery. That way, she would know the moment Dr. Song returned. When there was a knock on the door, Madame Yang stopped compiling the puzzle and looked at Yundong. "Dong Dong, is it time to eat?" "Mother, continue working on the puzzle. I'll go take a look." Yundong had not done much for the past 2 days and was a little lazy. She hesitated for a moment before the knock on the door suddenly became louder. She even heard a gruff voice. "I thought you said she was in her room." Then, the waiter's voice sounded. "Yes, she didn't go out. Previously, she even instructed me to bring dinner upstairs later." Then, he called out softly, Miss Gu, Madam Gu, are you there? Coming. Why are you rushing me? Gu Yundong frowned. She suddenly increased her pace and opened the door. The hand that was about to knock on the door again almost hit her face. Fortunately, the man stopped in time and lowered his hand. However, when Gu Yundong saw who it was, her originally impatient expression was instantly replaced with surprise. Chapter 264. Forget it, I need something from you. The next moment, Gu Yundong was suddenly hugged. Sister Gu, I finally see you again. She looked down. Wasn't this Dajiang? The waiter laughed awkwardly. Miss Gu, these two are looking for you. Well, I'll get going first. With that, he quickly slipped away. Gu Yundong brought them inside and closed the door. She looked at the old man standing there. Dr. Song, why are you with Dajiang? Song Dajiang was slightly stunned and blinked. You know me. Gu Yundong was speechless. She forced a smile on her face. 2 days ago, I went to the medical center to look for you. I wanted you to treat my mother. When shopkeeper Chao went to look for you, didn't he say that there was a mother and daughter who had come all the way from Xuanhe Prefecture with Dr. He's reference? Song Dajiang was speechless. F***CK, was she the one who was scolded badly by him back then? Oh no, oh no, oh no. Little Sun said that this was his savior. Song Dajiang's heart was in turmoil, but there was no change in his expression. He even frowned slightly and pondered. There's such a thing. Miss, did you get the wrong person? I didn't go back to Huimin Medical Center 2 days ago. Did shopkeeper Chao trick you? Gu Yundong immediately choked. Who would believe you? How could I have recognized you at a glance today if you hadn't returned to the clinic? On the other hand, Dajiang could not help but blink in confusion. Grandpa Song, didn't you go back to the medical center to get the herbs and white sugar 2 days ago? Song Dajiang instantly had the urge to go up and cover his mouth, but that would ruin his image. He immediately frowned and thought hard. Really? I can't remember clearly. I'm too old, so my brain isn't very good. Moreover, I hadn't slept for 2 days at that time. I was in a daze. Alright, let's not talk about the past. Didn't you specially ask me to bring you over to meet your sister Gu today? Since you've seen her, I'll go back first. Gu Yundong felt as if she had seen a split personality. She looked at Song Dajiang and thought of the irritable and bad-tempered Dr. Song 2 days ago. It was as if she had seen a different person. However, Dajiang's gaze was quickly diverted by him. He immediately waved his hand. Alright, Grandpa Song, you can go back first. Goodbye. Seeing that Song Dajiang was about to leave, Gu Yundong hurriedly said, Dr. Song, please wait. I really don't remember what happened 2 days ago. You can't blame me. Song Dajiang turned around and defended himself righteously. Dajiang nodded in agreement. Sister Gu, what Grandpa Song said is true. His memory is especially bad now. He ate my brother's white sugar yesterday and forgot about it 2 hours later. Song Dajiang, Gu Yundong raised her head and looked at him meaningfully. Don't you feel guilty for lying to a child? Forget it. She had a favor to ask, so it was better not to expose him. Gu Yundong coughed lightly. Since Dr. Song doesn't remember what happened 2 days ago, he'll talk about it again. My name is Gu Yundong. I came to Qingyuan Prefecture this time because I found out that Dr. Song is here and wanted to ask Dr. Song to treat my mother. He said that Dr. Song's medical skills are brilliant. If even Dr. Song can't do anything in this world, then my mother, she lowered her eyes slightly, looking very pained. Song Dajiang chuckled. Don't cry. Little son wants to hit me. Alright, alright, alright. Let me see. Where's your mother? Gu Yundong pointed at the person who had already put away the puzzle and was sitting quietly by the window. She wanted to ask Song Dajiang if there was something wrong with his eyes. Didn't he see such a big person? Forget it. She had a favor to ask of him, so it was better not to poke at his scars. Chapter 265. Treating Madame Yang. Song Dajiang coughed lightly and sat opposite Madame Yang. He said to her, "Give me your hand. I'll take your pulse." Madame Yang looked at Gu Yundong, who nodded. She slowly and carefully reached out her hand, but she still looked uneasy. How could Song Dajiang not see that there was something wrong with her? His expression immediately turned serious. He closed his eyes slightly and took her pulse quietly. After a while, he stood up and walked behind Madame Yang to look at the back of her head. Madame Yang almost jumped up in shock. It was only when Gu Yundong walked to her side and hugged her that she calmed down. Song Dajiang asked a few more questions. Most of them were similar to what Dr. He had asked back then. However, his emotions were not as intense as Dr. He's. Gu Yundong was a little nervous. Can my mother's illness be cured? It's hard to say. Song Dajiang sighed. Gu Yundong's heart skipped a beat. What's the problem? I can give her acupuncture once, but at most, I can maintain her current state and not let her condition worsen. However, if she wants to be cured, she needs a medicine to soak the silver needles for 2 days. I'll then inject them again to cure your mother's illness. What medicine? It's a medicine called Bimusi. It's not easy to find. She had never even heard of Bimusi. Gu Yundong pursed her lips. If even Song Dajiang said that it was not easy to find, it must be very rare. What does it look like? Where does it usually grow? Do you know where to buy it? No matter what, there was still hope. At most, she would just spend more time searching. If it was really as Song Dajiang had said, that he could stabilize his mother's condition and not let it endanger her life, then at least she would not have to worry so much. Coincidentally, Song Dajiang had a medical book with him. On it were records of Bimusi. He took it out and handed it to Gu Yundong. Take a look. Bimusi's appearance and features are drawn on it. Then, he looked around and asked her, the blood clot in your mother's brain is starting to spread. Do you want to treat it now or in the future? Now, of course. Since it had spread, the sooner the better. Song Dajiang nodded. Alright, let's go to Huimin Medical Center. It's too noisy here and it's not conducive to treating the disease. Okay. Gu Yundong put the book away and followed Song Dajiang and Bai Yang downstairs with Madame Yang. Shopkeeper Chao did not seem to be around. Only the waiter saw them. When he saw Song Dajiang and Gu Yundong enter together, he was surprised. It was not until Song Dajiang instructed him to prepare some things that he turned around and went to work. Song Dajiang brought them to the backyard. There was also a consultation room there. It was specially prepared for patients who were not convenient to be treated outside. There was no one there now, so Song Dajiang could use it. After the waiter brought the hot water, cotton cloth, and oil lamp, Song Dajiang asked him to help guard the door with Bai Yang and not let anyone disturb them. He had originally planned to let Gu Yundong stay outside, but Madame Yang seemed to be unable to leave her. Song Dajiang cleaned his hands. The moment he picked up the silver needle, he immediately became different. Gu Yundong was more at ease with Dr. Song. Madame Yang closed her eyes and leaned against Gu Yundong without moving. After an unknown period of time, Gu Yundong's hand stiffened slightly. Dr. Song put away the silver needles and said to Gu Yundong, "All right, bring your mother back to rest. There won't be a problem if we do it again tomorrow." "Yes." Joy flashed across Gu Yundong's face as she went to open the door. Before she could take a step forward, Bai Yang pounced on her. Sister Gu, I remember now. I've seen Bai Muzi before. Song Dajiang's expression changed drastically. He suddenly took a step forward. Little troublemaker. Shut up. Chapter 266. The little brat is very bad. Gu Yundong was pleasantly surprised when she heard Bai Yang's words, but Song Dajiang's actions extinguished it. She looked at him suspiciously. Song Dajiang looked up at the sky. He didn't know anything. Bai Yang ignored him and said, when I heard Bai Muzi just now, I felt that it sounded familiar. It was as if I had heard it somewhere before. I thought about it for more than 2 hours before I finally remembered. I've already told you to shut up, and you're still talking. Song Dajiang glared at the little guy, his heart bleeding. Bai Yang immediately hid behind Gu Yundong. But Sister Gu is my savior. I've decided that when I grow up, I'll marry her. I can't hide anything from my wife. Gu Yundong was speechless. Wait, what did you decide on your own? Did she agree? Song Dajiang was speechless. He had to quickly tell Bai Jian that his nephew was engaged to someone else, and it was an old woman who was many years older than him. Gu Yundong decided to try her best to ignore Bai Yang's words. In order not to let him treat this matter as a love token in the future, she felt that it was better not to get any information from him. Therefore, she looked at Song Dajiang very sincerely. Dr. Song, since you've already said this, can you tell me the truth? Do you have Bai Muzi? As long as you could treat my mother's illness, feel free to ask. I'll do what I can. Even if I can't do it now, I'll do it in the future. Song Dajiang felt a headache coming on. He glared at Bai Yang fiercely and turned to return to his room. Now that things have come to this, I'll tell you. Gu Yundong quickly followed him in happily, but Song Dajiang's next words were like a bucket of cold water. However, even if you know where Bai Muzi is, you won't be able to obtain it. Gu Yundong helped Madame Yang sit down. What do you mean? As for Bai Muzi, I really don't have any. However, my master has 2 stalks. Gu Yundong was surprised. You have a master. Dr. Song glared at her. What are you asking? If I didn't have a master, where would I get my medical skills? I thought that since Dr. Song's medical skills were so brilliant, he might be extremely talented and self-taught. In fact, Gu Yundong secretly felt that since Dr. Song was already so old, his master might already be gone. Song Dajiang felt comfortable with her flattery and was about to humble himself. Bai Yang said, Grandpa Song's master is my biological grandfather, but my grandfather is even younger than Grandpa Song. Gu Yundong silently shut her mouth. Song Dajiang really wanted to throw this brat out. He used to think that this boy was quite cute, but now he realized that he was just an elder sister slave who specially undermined him. He valued his lover over his friend. This brat was very bad. Song Dajiang was a little embarrassed and angry as he looked at Gu Yundong, who was trying her best to hold back her laughter. So do you want Bai Muzi or not? Yes. Gu Yundong quickly sat up straight. Then, she frowned. But didn't you say that I can't get it? Why? Is it because your master is not easy to talk to? Song Dajiang glanced at her from the corner of his eyes. My master is indeed not easy to talk to. He has a strange temper and doesn't care about favors. This Bai Muzi is rare, so it won't be easy for him to take it out. However, he glanced at Bai Yang. He treats his children and grandchildren very well. You saved his only grandson, so Bai Muzi will be given to you. Then why? Chapter 267, Undermining. By Yang. Song Dajiang sighed. That's because Bai Musi isn't the only thing in the storeroom. Master's precious medicinal herbs are all in there. Unfortunately, the key to the storeroom has been lost. Gu Yundong was speechless. She asked hesitantly, "Can't we find someone and break it open?" Song Dajiang sneered. "That key is not an ordinary key. Not to mention breaking it open, if you're not careful, the lock will be destroyed. Then, what about smashing open that door with a stone or a sword?" Song Dajiang had a strange expression on his face. "We can't smash it. How about a bomb?" Song Dajiang jumped up and stood up abruptly. He pointed at her and scolded, "Bang, bang, bang. Why are you so violent, fierce, and impatient? Do you know what that door is made of? Do you want to smash and blow it up?" Gu Yundong blinked, dumbfounded. "Aren't you the fierce and impatient one now?" "I don't know. It's not a wooden door. That's a jade door. It's such a huge piece of jade that's carved into a perfect door. Any damage will take my master's life, do you know that? For a Bai Musi, you actually want to destroy the jade door passed down by the Bai family's ancestor. Your conscience has been eaten by a dog." Song Dajiang cursed, scaring Madame Yang so much that she wanted to pick up the teapot beside her and smash it on his head. However, Dong Dong had said that if the other party didn't make a move, she couldn't make a move either. This was called not making a move until the enemy did. However, she still silently grabbed the teapot. Gu Yundong was also a little surprised. The entire door was made of jade. The Bai family was so rich. Bai Yang whispered into her ear, "That door isn't big. Even my Uncle Gao has to bow when he enters. However, Grandpa Song doesn't need to, but the storeroom is very big." Song Dajiang grabbed his collar and wanted to throw him out. Gu Yundong quickly stopped him. All right. Dr. Song, I have no intention of destroying your master's jade door for Bai Musi. Calm down. Otherwise, your blood will rush to your head and your memory will worsen. You'll even forget your name." Song Dajiang really wanted to vomit blood on her face. Why was this girl so annoying? Gu Yundong decided not to agitate him anymore. She immediately changed the topic. "But according to what you said, does that mean that the door won't be able to be opened in the future and the herbs inside won't be able to be used? Wouldn't they be wasted? Aren't we looking for the lost key?" Song Dajiang scratched his head, looking very troubled. "How long will it take to find it?" "I don't know, but there are already clues. It should be soon." Song Dajiang glanced at Madame Yang. "If you want to treat your mother, why don't you wait for my master and the others to find the key?" "For Bai Yang's sake, Bai Musi will be given to you. Why don't you think of a way to find Bai Musi yourself and bring it to me? It'll help your mother insert the needles." That was the only way. "Let's do both." She would find someone to help find the herbs. Fortunately, Madame Yang's condition had improved, so she could afford to wait. "All right, you can leave. I'm exhausted from talking to you. I've never seen such a stupid person. You're so young, but you keep asking questions." Song Dajiang waved his hand impatiently. Gu Yundong slowly exhaled. Forget it, she had a favor to ask. It was better not to make a move. She would just treat it as self-cultivation. She respected the old and loved the young. She was considerate of his old age and poor memory. Smiling, Gu Yundong took out the teapot from Madame Yang's hand and placed it back on the table before pulling her out. Song Dajiang thought that he had finally sent her away and did not have to worry about Bai Yang undermining him anymore, so he went to open the door eagerly. Unexpectedly, the moment he opened the door, he saw a figure running over angrily. Chapter 268, My Family. Dr. Song, you're finally back. Let me ask you, did you take the white sugar I placed in the pharmacy? Shopkeeper Chao rushed in front of him like a gust of wind and asked with his eyes wide open. What are you doing? What's there to shout about? Song Dajiang was even more self-righteous than him. Didn't your boss say that the medicine in the pharmacy is for me to use? Since you've placed it there, why can't I take it? If I can't take it, don't put it there. Seriously, he was so noisy. He didn't know how to respect the old and love the young at all. He dared to shout at him in front of everyone. How rude. Shopkeeper Chao was speechless. Then, he saw Gu Yundong behind him and felt even more aggrieved. Gu Yundong widened her eyes in surprise. Previously, when she heard Bai Yang mention white sugar, she thought that her family already had it. It seemed like it was taken away from shopkeeper Chao. Gu Yundong did not know whether to laugh or cry. Seeing Song Dajiang walk in angrily, she led Madame Yang past shopkeeper Chao and said, "I'll give it to you later." Shopkeeper Chao's eyes lit up. He swore not to leave the white sugar in the pharmacy again. He had clearly hidden it very well. Dr. Song was too good at finding it. Song Dajiang did not hear what she said. He only saw that Gu Yundong seemed to have said something. Shopkeeper Chao turned around and left happily. He looked suspiciously at Gu Yundong. With a glance, he realized that Bai Yang was actually pulling her sleeve and wanting to follow her. This little ingrate. Song Dajiang decided to ignore him and instructed Gu Yundong, "Send him back later." Okay. Then Bai Yang left happily with Gu Yundong. After returning to the inn, Gu Yundong let Madame Yang sleep. It seemed that after the acupuncture, she felt sleepy. Gu Yundong then brought Bai Yang downstairs for dinner and asked him about the Bai family. Is your grandfather's medical skills better than Dr. Song's? Bai Yang nodded. Of course. My grandfather started studying medicine when he was 3 years old. When he was 7 years old, he met Grandpa Song, who was 10 years old. Then, he taught Grandpa Song how to recognize herbs and they became master and disciple. Gu Yundong wanted to laugh. So there was such a relationship. Where's your Uncle Gao? Why didn't he bring you here today? Bai Yang took a bite of the drumstick and said, My brother Bai's illness is already cured. He left Qingyuan Prefecture to do something. That Gao Feng was quite busy. Then where is your home? Bai Yang shook his head. Brother Bai said that we can't tell anyone about this. However, if Sister Gu marries me in the future, you will be a member of our family. You will know when the time comes. Forget it. Pretend she didn't ask. Then, she asked a few more questions. However, Bai Yang was still young. It was either he did not know, or he could not say. His answers were all too ordinary questions. After the two of them finished eating, Gu Yundong wanted to send Bai Yang back. He seemed to be unwilling. However, he also knew that it was not good for unmarried men and women to be together for too long, so he went back to Huimin Medical Center obediently. Later, Bai Jian would ask the coachman to pick him up. He still had to go back. Gu Yundong heaved a sigh of relief. Were children nowadays so scary? Did they know too much? Yun Shu was not like this. He was only thinking about studying. At most, he was worried that his family might not have money. She shook her head and went upstairs to wash up. However, just as she was taking off her coat, something suddenly fell out of her chest. Chapter 269. Split Personality. Gu Yundong picked it up and realized that it was the medical book that Dr. Song had given her during the day. She flipped it open and took a look. Although it was a medical book, it was actually a book that introduced medicinal herbs. The explanation was very detailed. There were pictures, introductions, and habits. Gu Yundong flipped to Bai Muse's page and tried her best to memorize it. Finally, she admitted with a headache that one had to be talented to learn medicine. After memorizing it, she closed her eyes and was confused again. After some thought, she took out a pen, ink, paper, and inkstone from her space. Ever since she settled down, she had started to learn how to write with a brush. Now, she was gradually getting better. She had copied down all of Muse's descriptions, including the appearance of the medicinal ingredient. After copying, she thought about it. Since she couldn't sleep, she might as well copy the other medicines in the book. Dajiang threw the medical book to her. He definitely didn't mind her looking at the rest. She would copy it once as if she had read it once to deepen her impression. Tomorrow, she would ask if the copy could be taken away. If not, she would give this book to Dr. Song. Yundong calmed down, put the oil lamp closer, and began to write. The medical book was not very thick. It was still dark when Yundong finished copying it. Then, she sadly realized that she had already forgotten the names of the medicinal herbs on the previous page. Damn it, what the hell? She closed her book. She had already given up. It was better for her to memorize by Muse. Madame Yang had just woken up. When Yundong went over, she found her sitting on the bed in a daze and frowned slightly. Mother, what's wrong? Hungry. Yundong laughed. We didn't even eat last night. Let's go downstairs. After breakfast, she took Madame Yang to Huimin Medical Center. Dajiang helped her perform the acupuncture again before saying, all right, we're just waiting for Muse now. Yundong thanked Dr. Song and returned the medical book he had given her yesterday. She also took out the one she had copied. Dajiang sipped his tea and said nonchalantly, go ahead and copy it. I've already shown it to you, so there's nothing to hide. Take your copy and read it more often. In the future, if you see any good medicinal herbs on it, keep them well. You can let me use them in the future. If there's a lot, I might even take you in as a disciple. Yundong thought about how she had failed to memorize the medicinal properties even after reading it 3 times. Forget it. Dajiang put away his book. Just as he put it away, he suddenly thought of something and slammed the table. No, how could you casually copy my medical book? Yundong, huh? So you really have a split personality. Dajiang's face was cold. Do you know that I wrote this medical book myself? There's only one copy in this world. It's very, very precious. Moreover, the herbs recorded in it can't be bought in ordinary pharmacies and clinics. Many doctors don't even recognize them. How can you copy such a precious medical book without asking me? Yundong's mouth twitched. Then. I'll return it to you. Return it to me and it's over. Dajiang glared at him. You've already read it. But I've forgotten all about it. What? I said you were stupid, but you refused to admit it. You can even forget this. No, I don't believe it. You must have remembered everything clearly. Perhaps if you return this book to me now, you can go back and make another copy. Yundong felt that if it was not necessary in the future, she should interact less with this fellow with a split personality. So, what do you want me to do? Chapter 270, The Peak of Life. Dr. Song snorted and touched his chin as if he was thinking. After a while, he said, you took someone else's things, so you definitely have to pay something. All right, I'll give you money. How much do you want? Oh right, I'll also give you my mother's consultation fee. Dajiang was furious. Who wants your stinky silver? What do you take me for? I treated your mother to help Yang return your favor. Besides, how can my precious medical book be bought with money? Yundong was about to go crazy because of this lunatic. Her patience was completely gone. Then what do you want? What do you want me to pay? Tell me quickly. Humph, then give me 2 caddies of white sugar as a token of appreciation. Song Dajiang looked proud. Ha! Yundong almost choked on her own saliva. What? If you can give some to Chao, can't you give some to me? Song Dajiang had almost tortured the guy to extract a confession last night. He had finally gotten shopkeeper Chao to tell him what Yundong had mysteriously said to him that made him leave happily and not pursue his responsibility. Only then did he know that the bag of white sugar was actually from her. Yundong was speechless. So you've been acting for so long just for 2 caddies of sugar. Seeing that she did not speak in a long time, Song Dajiang frowned and hesitated. 2 caddies is too much. Then forget it. Just 1 caddy. That's not a high requirement, right? Yundong still did not speak. Song Dajiang couldn't help but say, you must have 1 caddy, right? If you really don't have it, can't you just give me Chao's? Anyway, you don't owe Chao a favor. You owe me 1. If you think you can't go back on your word, then give it to him. Give him 1 tael. Anyway, you didn't agree to give much. Dr. Song, do you like sweet food? Yundong finally asked after thinking for a long time. Song Dajiang refused to admit it. I don't. Yundong raised her eyebrows and did not keep him in suspense. All right, I'll give it to you. Dr. Song, wait here for a while. Help me take care of my mother. I'll be back soon. Okay, no problem. Yundong went to the inn. When she came out of her room, the cloth bag in her hand was a little heavy. Song Dajiang was pacing back and forth in the room. When he heard footsteps, he quickly went up to her. Yundong placed the cloth bag on the table and held a bowl in his other hand. Song Dajiang was stunned. What is it? Open it and take a look. Song Dajiang felt like something was going to explode, but he still couldn't control his restless hands and opened the cloth bag. Then, his pupils suddenly constricted, and the hair on his body seemed to have exploded. Sugar, 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 sugar. He had not thought about it at all. After all, he was certain that Yundong would only give 1 caddy of candy. But here, there were 10 caddies, right? Where did this girl get so much? Didn't they say that it was very difficult to buy it in the capital? These are all for you. You refused to accept my mother's consultation fee, so I had no choice but to replace it with this. Yundong lifted the lid of the bowl at the side. This is candy. I made it myself. It's sweet and delicious. You can try it. Song Dajiang took a look and stuffed a candy into his mouth. It was so delicious that he wanted to cry. It was fragrant and sweet. He felt that his life had reached its peak. Yundong asked him, how does it taste? Song Dajiang nodded calmly. It's all right. Then eat slowly. I'll bring my mother back to rest first. Song Dajiang still nodded. However, as soon as she went out, he instantly stuffed 2 fruit candies into his mouth. Then, he sat on the ground with the bag of sugar in his arms, tears streaming down his face. He was too excited. There was so much white sugar. He did not have to secretly eat others anymore. The heavens had treated him well. By the way, there's one more thing, Yundong suddenly returned. Song Dajiang stood up in a second and forcefully controlled the expression on his face. Chapter 271, How to Find Dajiang. Yundong felt that this person, indeed, had split personalities. This was probably because doctors could not treat themselves. Sigh, it was quite pitiful. Song Dajiang was angry. Why did she come back for no reason? He raised his head and explained with a serious expression, "The candy I ate just now made my tears come out." Yundong glanced at the bowl. "Were there a few missing? But sugar is sweet. My feelings are different from ordinary people, all right." Sigh, "I realize that you like to get to the bottom of things. Do you know that you're very unlikable like this?" Yundong was enlightened. "I will definitely learn my lesson and strive to correct it." "All right, whatever you say. As long as you're happy." She respected the old and loved the young. Only then did Dajiang brush off his clothes and ask her unhappily, "What else is there? Hurry up and say it. I'm annoyed to see you." Really, if this person had not cured her mother, Yundong would have beaten him up. She walked over and handed him a letter. "Qin Wenjing asked me to give this to you." Qin Wenjing. Dajiang looked at her in surprise. "Where is he now?" Yundong pointed at the letter. "You'll know once you read it." Dajiang was a little hesitant. After a while, he reached out to take the letter. Yundong did not know what was written on it. She only knew that Dr. Song's originally casual expression slowly turned serious. Gradually, it overlapped with his appearance when he was treating the illness. Yundong felt that he probably had 3 personalities. "I'll go." She left quietly, but Dajiang remained silent for a long time after reading the letter. He sat there for half a day and even forgot about the existence of the white sugar. Yundong had been in the Qingyuan prefecture for 5 to 6 days. Madame Yang's matter was half resolved, but Dajiang's whereabouts were still unknown. It was not easy to find someone in the vast sea of people. Yundong thought for 2 whole days in the inn. On the morning of the 3rd day, Dajiang came with Yang. He said to Yundong, "I'm going to the capital. Give me your address. When there's news of Muzi, I'll send you a letter." Yundong was surprised and quickly wrote down the address for him. Yang also had a bitter expression on his face. "Sister Gu, I'm going to the farm outside the city. Brother Bai is going there to recuperate. I have to go too. It won't be easy to see you in the future." As he spoke, he reached for Dajiang's hand and took the note from him. He read the address carefully twice before saying to Yundong, "Sister Gu, I'll write to you when the time comes. Sister Gu has a younger brother who's about the same age as you. You can write to him and even be friends with him." She hoped that he wouldn't mention anything about devoting himself to her again. She couldn't take it. Yang thought for a moment and nodded. "I'll write to you both." Both Dajiang and Yang had already packed their things and were about to set off. Dajiang's carriage was outside the inn. When they left the city, they could just bring Yang to the farm. They had specially come to bid farewell to Yundong. In the end, Yang even felt wronged and wanted Yundong to send them to the city gate. Yundong also wanted to go out for a walk. It was not a good idea to stay in the room, so she agreed and brought Madame Yang out. What she did not expect was that on this trip, she really thought of a solution that was not a solution. Chapter 272, Puzzle. After sending Dr. Song and the boy back, Yundong passed by the notice board at the city gate and could not help but narrow her eyes. There were 2 soldiers standing in front of the notice board. There were notices and decrees posted on it that the officers were announcing to the commoners, but not many people were looking at them. However, there was a wall not far away that was surrounded by many people. Yundong did not notice it when she entered the city. She brought Madame Yang over and asked the people beside her. Only then did she know that this was considered a civilian notice board. There hadn't been any in the past. It was announced a few months ago after the new prefecture magistrate took office. Ever since the chaos, many people had been separated from their families. Some people asked about their family's whereabouts, and some posted all kinds of news on the streets and alleys. When the new prefecture magistrate arrived, he saw many notices on the wall. He was planning to reorganize the Qingyuan prefecture boldly. The environment on the street was naturally very important. Later on, someone suggested that everyone stick the notices together. Hence, this wall was filled with all kinds of missing persons notices and random news. Yundong glanced at the pictures on the wall and sighed again. The pictures drawn by these people were extremely abstract. Her eyes darted around slightly. She took a charcoal pen and memorized the information on the notice board. Then, she brought Madame Yang back. Yundong wanted to post a missing person notice himself. Even if Dajiang didn't see it, as long as someone who had seen him provided some clues, she would have a direction to look for the man. But Yundong had a problem. Since she was going to put up a missing person notice, she would definitely draw it very realistically. However, the last time she drew someone so realistically, it was a wanted poster. Although the bandit leader had been caught, God knew if his other lackeys were hiding in the crowd, waiting for an opportunity to take revenge. It would be strange if they didn't look for her when they saw the missing person notice that came from almost the same artist. Even if she escaped safely, what about Dajiang? Would he become their target? Therefore, Dajiang's portrait couldn't be the only one unique among the missing person notices. That would be too suspicious. After returning to the inn, Yundong consolidated the information she had copied down, especially the addresses on it. After packing up, she turned to Madame Yang and said, "Mother, let's rent a courtyard in tomorrow. I don't know how long it will take to find father. It's inconvenient to stay in an inn all the time." Back then, she chose to stay in the inn because this place was next to Huimin Medical Center, so it was convenient for Madame Yang to see a doctor. Madame Yang was playing with the puzzle, which Yundong had made himself. After all, although the previous one was also a wooden puzzle, be it the image or the material, it was different from this era. She coaxed Madame Yang to get her a more difficult one, so she found a thin wooden board and drew 2 cartoon children on it. Those 2 children were Yunshu and Yunke. Then, she cut them into many pieces. Madame Yang liked it very much. Every time she finished the puzzle, she could see the 2 children. She almost forgot to eat and sleep. When she heard Yundong's words, she looked up and smiled. Okay. Then she continued. The next day, Yundong asked shopkeeper Shao where she could rent a cheap, quiet, and safe house. On the same day, she contacted the owner and signed a month's lease before moving in. At night, when the sky was about to turn dark, Yundong put on her old makeup and left the courtyard. Chapter 273. Drawing portraits for others. She sent Madame Yang to Huimin Medical Center in the afternoon, but Yundong was still worried about leaving her alone in the newly rented courtyard. Fortunately, shopkeeper Chao's wife was a good person and was also helping out at the medical center, so Yundong asked her to take care of Madame Yang. The other party naturally agreed. She knew that Miss Gu had given her family something good. This small favor was nothing. Yundong was wearing rough clothes, the kind that was very common on the streets. After searching the spatial storage for a long time, she could not find any hair dye. Hence, she went to ask shopkeeper Chao and knew that there were many things that could be used to dye hair. Yundong found an excuse to ask shopkeeper Chao to create 2 hair dye solutions, one black and one white. Now, she had dyed more than half of her hair white and tied her chest flat. Although she was not very mature, she still had some curves. She put on some makeup, and when she turned around, she was a short old man. Yundong only laughed when she saw that she was fine. Yundong found a blacksmith shop according to the addresses she had previously gathered. 2 brothers owned this shop. It was said that they had a younger brother who went missing during the chaos. The two brothers found someone to draw a rough portrait and pasted the notice on the wall. However, after such a long time, they were still nowhere to be found. There was only half of the notice left. Fortunately, there was an address on it. When Yundong walked in with his back hunched, the two brothers were stunned. "Sir, what do you want? A scissor or a kitchen knife?" Yundong coughed and waved her hand. She said in a rough voice, "I don't buy things. I saw a notice at the city gate. Are you looking for your brother?" The two brothers looked at each other and were a little excited at the same time. "Sir, you've seen him. Do you know where he is?" Yundong shook her head and coughed again. "I've never seen him before." Seeing their disappointed expressions, she added, "Even if I had seen him before, I wouldn't have recognized him. Don't you think about what the person in your portrait looks like? It can't be helped. We spend a lot of money to hire someone to draw it, but it's nothing good." Yundong shook her head. "It'll help you draw a picture. Tell me what your brother looks like." The two brothers were stunned again. "Sir, don't worry, I won't take money. I'm just doing a good deed." With that, she took out a charcoal pencil and paper and laid them on the table. "Tell me," she urged impatiently. The two brothers thought about it. She didn't charge them, and it didn't look like she was extorting them. In addition, they weren't forging anymore, so why not give it a try? Hence, the two of them spoke one after another and described their younger brother's appearance. Yundong was becoming more and more proficient. It did not take long for a lifelike portrait to appear under the eyes of the two brothers. The two of them were shocked. It was as if their younger brother was standing in front of them. They looked up at Yundong. "Grandpa, you're too capable. Once this picture is posted, anyone who has seen our brother will definitely recognize him. Alright, it'll help you write down your address and information. You can paste it on that wall tomorrow morning." "Yes, we'll post it tomorrow." The two of them praised the portrait. Yundong left before they could react. She went to the next address. Chapter 274. Someone at home. That family was quite well off and had a few servants. At that time, when the city was in chaos, a maidservant of theirs actually ran away with a lot of gold and silver jewelry. Although they had reported it to the officers, it was obvious that there were too many such things and they could not catch her at all. Yundong had also asked them if they wanted to find the maidservant and let others think that she knew the maidservant's whereabouts and invite her in. In the end, she had been tricked into drawing the maidservant's appearance. She had also drawn the jewelry that the girl had taken away. The third and fourth families. When she came out of the fifth family's house, it was almost time for curfew. She quickly washed off the makeup on her face, put on a hat to cover her white hair, and went to Huimin Medical Center to fetch Madame Yang home. Fortunately, the sky was dark and she was in a hurry to leave. Shopkeeper Chao's wife did not notice anything strange about her. After returning and waiting for Madame Yang to fall asleep, Yundong dyed her hair black. Then, she began to recall Dajiang's appearance and draw him. After painting, just as she was about to write down Dajiang's information, the situation of the second family suddenly flashed across her mind. After some thought, she wrote on the information about Dajiang. "This person doesn't pay his debts. If there's news of this person, no matter how many clues there are, you will receive 10 taels of silver if they're true." After writing down the address of this small courtyard, she blew on it, put it away, and went to bed. The next morning, Yundong was woken up by a scream. She quickly got up to take a look and saw Madame Yang holding the portrait. She shouted and jumped, "Dong dong, it's Dad, Dad." "Yes, it's my father, your husband." Yundong smiled helplessly. Madame Yang had a happy smile on her face. Her fingers gently brushed past Dajiang's face on the blueprint, and her eyes were filled with nostalgia. Gu Yundong was stunned for a moment before she suddenly reacted. She should have drawn Gu Dajiang's image and placed it at home so that her mother and siblings could have something to think about. She walked over and hugged Madame Yang gently. "Mother, we'll find father soon." "Yeah." Gu Yundong quickly tidied herself up, changed into women's clothes, and brought Madame Yang to the city gate. As soon as they arrived, they heard a commotion, especially exclamations. "This is too similar. Look, even her hair is strand by strand. Who drew it? I want this person to draw one for me too. Don't even think about it. Didn't you hear what the person posted just now said? The other party didn't take a single cent, he's just doing a good deed to help others." Gu Yundong pursed her lips and smiled. Seeing that there were already 3 paintings pasted on the wall, he took the blueprints and pasted them on. Everyone looked over. It was also done by the same person. Someone quickly surrounded Gu Yundong. "Miss, did an old man help you draw this?" "That's right. That old man is a good person. When did he help you draw it? Did you see how he drew it clearly? Miss, did you learn it?" The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. She looked at the scholarly man who spoke last. His eyes were filled with desire, as if as long as she said that she could learn a little, he would immediately let her teach him. Gu Yundong shook her head decisively. "How can I learn it?" Seeing that another person had come to paste the picture, Gu Yundong quickly took advantage of everyone's relaxation and led Madame Yang out of the crowd. Madame Yang heaved a sigh of relief and turned around to look at the picture on the wall, looking very excited. However, when they reached home, Gu Yundong had just opened the courtyard door when her body suddenly froze. There was someone at home. Chapter 275. Pretend no one has been here. Gu Yundong stopped in her tracks and frowned as she pulled Madame Yang to the side. How did they come so quickly? Just as she was thinking about it, the person in the room came out. It was a man in the clothes of an officer. He was someone that Gu Yundong knew, the leader of the officers who came over after she saved the child at the inn that day. The officer stood at the door of the central room and gave her a look, telling her to close the courtyard door first. Gu Yundong had a good impression of him. It was said that not long after the kidnappers were taken away that day, they were asked about the whereabouts of the children who had been kidnapped during the Lantern Festival. The officers were lucky. They had planned to take Bai Yang away, but they did not expect to be caught by Gu Yundong. Later on, the government even sent money to Gu Yundong, saying that it was sent by the children's families. Therefore, when the officer looked mysterious, she closed the courtyard door even though she was puzzled. Then, she brought Madame Yang into the central room. The officer's surname was Li. He waited for them to enter before saying, "I'm sorry for scaring you. I was just afraid of alerting the enemy, so I had no choice but to do this." Gu Yundong was puzzled. "What do you mean?" Officer Li explained, "Miss, I'm afraid you don't know. Last year, Qingyuan Prefecture was in chaos. At that time, a bandit leader took the opportunity to enter the city and kill many people. The Shuanhe Prefecture sent troops to suppress him, but that bandit leader escaped. Later on, a magical painter from the Shuanhe Prefecture drew the appearance of the bandit. Only then did the bandit be brought to justice in 3 days. Magical painter. It's a pity that although the bandit has been beheaded, the little bandits under him have not all been captured. The portrait that Miss took out today should be from the same person as the one that drew the bandit leader. They were both drawn by that magical artist." After the prefecture magistrate found out about this, he guessed that some bandit might come to ask about the artist. He immediately gathered all the constables and guards to the house of the person who posted the portrait today, waiting to catch a turtle in a jar. Gu Yundong could not help but widen her eyes. Where did the new emperor find such a smart new prefecture magistrate? He even thought of this. In fact, Yundong had also guessed that the bandits would come to ask about the artist, so she had written an anonymous letter to analyze the situation. She planned to send it to the government office in a while and give it to Officer Lee in front of her. She even thought about what would happen if the government office didn't take it to heart. Therefore, the few families she went to yesterday night had been specially selected. For example, the two brothers from the blacksmith's forge who were tall and not to be trifled with, the big family with guards at home, the family with a few men who lived near the government office. Bandits were usually unwilling to find a family that was too strong and might expose themselves. In the end, they could only choose the weakest one with no foundation, which was only the mother and daughter. She planned to send Madame Yang to the Chao family for the night and then wait to see if any little thieves would come. Unexpectedly, before she could do anything, the prefecture magistrate had already thought of it. Although Yundong had never met the current emperor, from the things he had done after he ascended the throne and the officers he had assigned to govern the towns and cities, Dajiang would definitely prosper under his governance. Seeing that she was silent, Officer Lee thought that she was frightened. You don't have to be afraid. I'm not the only one here. There are ambushes around. We definitely won't let anything happen to Mississippi. Only then did Yundong look up. Of course I'm not afraid. I'll pretend that there's no one else in my house and go do my own thing. Chapter 276. There's news of Dajiang. Officer Lee smiled and nodded. He knew it. This girl was different from ordinary girls. Otherwise, why would she catch kidnappers in public? Sure enough, Yundong followed Madame Yang into the house. They boiled water, cooked, and talked. Officer Lee was also very self-aware. He went to another room and did not come out. It was only at night that he asked Yundong and her mother to stay in their room and not go out. He was on high alert. The reason why small thieves were small thieves was because they were not very smart, so they could not even be a small leader. Hence, when the sky turned dark at night, 4 of them did not disappoint others and sneaked into the courtyard. There was also one person outside. However, in the blink of an eye, a person pounced on him from the left and right. The bandit who was acting as a lookout was taken down before he could even make a sound. Immediately after, the officers outside the door quickly broke open the door and rushed in. The 4 of them were still prying open the door of the central room when they were surrounded in the blink of an eye. The door of the central room opened from the inside. Officer Lee sneered at them. You're finally here. What? What did he mean? Could it be that the officers knew that they would come? Could it be that this was a trap set up by the government to lure them out? Damn it. The few thieves turned around and ran, but there were more officers than them, and they had come prepared. How could they let them leave? However, thieves were different from ordinary thieves. They were indeed ruthless. They took out their daggers and started fighting with a few officers. One of the officers had a cut on his arm, but he still took them down. One by one, they were dragged away with their hands tied and their mouths covered. As for what happened next, it would depend on the prefecture magistrate's ability. Perhaps he could pull out the carrots and bring them out of the mud to catch them all in one fell swoop. Yundong opened a corner of the window and saw the entire process clearly. Officer Lee was the last to leave. He glanced at the window. I've disturbed Miss Gu today. Goodbye. Yundong waved her hand. When she saw that everyone had left, she lowered the window. The next day, she went to ask around. As she had expected, the other families did not encounter any thieves, although the officers were also lying in ambush at those places. After this incident, even if the bandits were not all captured, they would probably think that this was a trap set by the government and not dare to act rashly. In the next few days, Yundong would sometimes go to the notice board to take a look. Sometimes she would go elsewhere to inquire. She had even asked Officer Li about Gu Dajiang's whereabouts. Unfortunately, the government office didn't find any information on Gu Dajiang's household registration. Actually, Gu Yundong had known for a long time. After all, when Qin Wenjing agreed to help, he had hired someone to ask the authorities. Unfortunately, there were many refugees and bandits during that period of time. How many people went missing and how many people were killed? There were countless documents missing from the government. It was very difficult to find a person in the vast sea of people. Furthermore, the name Gu Dajiang was too common. There were several of them in the same village, so it was even more difficult to investigate. Nowadays, Qingyuan Prefecture had a lot of things to do. From the prefecture magistrate to the servants, they were all so busy that their feet didn't touch the ground. Who had the time to help you find someone who might be dead or out of Qingyuan Prefecture? The authorities could not find anything, so Gu Yundong thought of looking for her father among the people and posting a missing person notice. Fortunately, the vivid image attracted the attention of many people. Even those who did not often go to the notice board would curiously take a look. In addition, she had attached a reward of 10 taels of silver at the back. There would always be people who wanted to earn this money. Thus, on this day, Gu Yundong had just eaten lunch when she finally received a clue. Chapter 277:1 Have seen Gu Dajiang. The person who came was a woman in her mid-20s. Her hair was tied into a woman's bun, and her clothes were a little tattered. She was still a little nervous when she entered. She looked around as if she was afraid that someone would suddenly jump out. Gu Yundong asked her to sit, but she only dared to sit on half a stool. When she saw that there were only Gu Yundong and Madame Yang in the house, the woman heaved a sigh of relief and said to her, I've seen the person in this portrait. She took off the missing person notice. Perhaps because she was too nervous and hid it in her arms, it looked wrinkled when she took it out. Seeing this, Madame Yang was immediately angry. She went forward and took the notice, placing it on the table and flattening it. The woman was shocked by her actions and stood up abruptly. What are you doing? Gu Yundong hurriedly said, Sister-in-law, don't be nervous. My mother just feels a little heartache when she sees such a good portrait wrinkled. It's fine. You just said that you've seen the person in this portrait. Where did you see him? She tried her best to be gentle, even though she was already very anxious. When the woman heard this, she sat down again. She bit her lip and asked her softly, You said that you would give me 10 taels of silver, right? That depends on whether you're telling the truth or not. Of course it is. The woman hurriedly promised, I swear that everything I'm saying is true. Okay, I'm listening. The woman exhaled and said, This person's name is Gu Dajiang, right? Gu Yundong's eyes lit up. Yes. I've seen him before. It was when the Qingyuan prefecture was in chaos. I saw it after the soldiers from the Shuanhe prefecture came here. At that time, the city was in chaos. Our family was poor, and our houses were in tatters. We thought that those refugees and bandits wouldn't like them, so we hid at home and waited for this chaos to pass before coming out. At the mention of the past, the woman still had lingering fear on her face. But I didn't expect them to come to my house. At that time, the soldiers quickly chased after us. Those bandits saw that they couldn't escape, so they captured me and my man. This Gu Dajiang came out at this time. He seemed to have given that officer an idea. Then, we were saved and those bandits were captured. Upon hearing Gu Dajiang's name, Madame Yang sat obediently at the side and listened. The woman continued, That officer seems to admire Gu Dajiang very much. He even asked Gu Dajiang to work by his side. However, he didn't succeed. Gu Dajiang said that he wanted to find his wife and children in Qingyuan prefecture. That officer was quite disappointed. Later on, he said that he could help him find them. When he found them, he would agree to help him. The woman was quite envious at that time. Back then, Dajiang's clothes were tattered. Other than his clean face, his entire body smelled bad. It was obvious that he was a refugee who had escaped from Yongning Prefecture. The officer didn't mind at all. The problem was that Dajiang actually rejected such an opportunity to soar. The woman didn't have a good impression of refugees, even though Dajiang could be considered to have saved them. But at the end of the day, if not for these refugees, why would their Qingyuan prefecture be in chaos? Why would she be captured by bandits? Why would more than half of her house be smashed? They were even poorer than before. The officer left after quelling the chaos. I heard that he made a great contribution and might go to the capital to become an official. We didn't see Dajiang again and thought that he must have left with that officer. The woman said, I didn't expect to see him again half a month later. Chapter 278, Are You Giving Me Silver? Naturally, Yundong could hear the dissatisfaction in her tone. But as long as the clues were accurate, dissatisfaction was dissatisfaction. She often made others dissatisfied herself. Did she care? Where did you see him? The woman replied, at the city gate. That day, my man was looking for work there. I went over to deliver some food to him and saw Dajiang. At that time, although Dajiang was still very thin, the clothes he was wearing were much better. She felt that the officer must have given him silver before he left. He was really lucky. My man saw him first and even greeted him, the woman suddenly said sourly. He didn't seem to know us anymore. That's true. At that time, he probably only had eyes for that officer. How could he remember small fries like us? Yundong frowned. This person was no longer as cautious as before. The more she spoke, the more emotional she became. She tapped the table. And? Get to the point. My man was a fool. He even went forward to ask if he had found his family. Seeing that she was impatient, the woman was a little afraid and hurriedly said, in the end, Dajiang said that his family wasn't in Qingyuan Prefecture and that he had to find them elsewhere. Then, he left the city gate. He left Qingyuan Prefecture. Yundong had thought of this possibility. The woman nodded. He did. My husband and I saw him carrying a bag out of the city gate with our own eyes. We never saw him again. As she spoke, she leaned closer. Previously, I suspected that he was lying when he said that he wanted to find his wife and children. Tell me, how did he confirm that they weren't in Qingyuan Prefecture after searching for half a month? When I saw this notice today, I finally understood. He didn't pay his debts, so he escaped. Yundong thought that Dajiang must have his own way to confirm it. Well, miss, I've said everything I need to say. Shouldn't you give me these 10 taels of silver? Yundong said, but there aren't any useful clues. I still can't find him. Why not? At least you know that Dajiang is no longer in Qingyuan Prefecture. You don't have to spend so much effort putting up notices and giving rewards. It will save you a lot of time. She had a point. Then how do I know if you're telling the truth? Of course I'm telling the truth. I've already sworn an oath. Why don't you believe me? The woman stood up anxiously. Hey, don't tell me you don't want to give the 10 taels of silver. Then aren't you lying by posting this notice? Do you know how difficult it was for me to come here? Yundong actually believed 70% to 80% of what the woman said. She could say her father's name, his height, and knew that he was looking for his wife and children here. Seeing that she was silent, the woman became a little anxious. Are you going to give it to me or not? If you don't, before she could finish speaking, an explosive voice suddenly sounded from outside the door. Wang Xiaomei, are you inside? Come out. Gu Yundong was stunned. The woman's expression changed drastically and she ran out of the central room in shock. However, after running a few steps, she ran back. What should I do? What should I do? Who's outside the door? Gu Yundong narrowed her eyes. Wang Xiaomei, stop hiding. I know you're here. Come out quickly, do you hear me? The voice outside the door sounded again. If this continued, the neighbors would come out to watch the commotion. Gu Yundong walked out and opened the door. Chapter 279. Gone. When the man at the door saw that it was a teenage girl who opened the door, he was slightly stunned. Just as he wondered if he had found the wrong door, he saw the woman in the courtyard who was looking for a place to hide. His expression changed as he ran in with large strides. He grabbed her wrist and said sternly, "You're really here. You really went to take off that notice. Do you still have a conscience?" Gu Yundong quietly closed the courtyard door, blocking the neighbors who wanted to watch the show. She slowly walked into the central room. Madame Yang had already hidden when the man came in. At this moment, there was only a man and a woman who looked like a married couple arguing in the central room. Wang Xiaomei was probably in pain from the man's grip. She shouted angrily, "Why am I heartless? It's all for our family. Why don't you take a look at how dilapidated our family is? But you can't take this kind of money. If not for Gu Dajiang, we would have all died. They're here to collect debts. Would they let Gu Dajiang off if they found him? What do you mean we would have died without Gu Dajiang? Without him, the soldiers will save us. It's just a matter of time. You also know that they're looking for Gu Dajiang to collect debt. If he doesn't repay the debt, it means that he's not a good person at all. Whether he's a good person or not, I admit that he saved my life. Let me tell you, Wang Xiaomei, if you dare to take this silver today, I'll divorce you when we get back." Wang Xiaomei was stunned when she heard this. She looked at the man in disbelief. "You want to divorce me? Bao Chunhua, you want to divorce me for someone you've only met twice? What did I do wrong?" As she spoke, she started crying. "So what if I came here to report? I don't know where Gu Dajiang is now. At most, I'll tell them not to look for him in Qingyuan Prefecture. It's a huge world outside. They might not be able to find Gu Dajiang even if they die. You only lost your conscience if you divorce me because of this." She was crying profusely. The man probably realized that he had spoken too harshly. Seeing her cry so miserably, he was at a loss. However, he still straightened his neck and said, "It's not right for you to have such thoughts. All right, stop crying. How can you cry like this in someone else's house? Let's go home." Bao Chunhua pulled her away, but Gu Yundong still handed them the 10 taels of silver. She was a woman of her word. Wang Xiaomei was overjoyed and reached out to take it. Bao Chunhua glared at her. "Don't you dare take it." Wang Xiaomei was so frightened that she immediately retracted her hand and glared at Gu Yundong. "Why didn't you take it out earlier?" Then, she was pulled away. Gu Yundong was speechless. It was not her fault. She was just a little cautious. After Wang Xiaomei left, Gu Yundong returned to the central room and saw the portrait on the table. After some thought, she decided to paste it back on the notice wall. She waited at home for more than 10 days. During this period, 3 more people came claiming that they had seen Gu Dajiang. One of them was a man whose face was red from drinking. He spoke incoherently and looked like he was here to extort money. One was an old lady who had a small wonton stall. Although she was old, she had a good memory. She said that Gu Dajiang had gone to her stall to ask for a bowl of wontons. During the conversation, he had mentioned that he was leaving Qingyuan Prefecture to look for his wife and children. However, the old lady did not know where he went. There was also a scholar-like person who said that he had seen Gu Dajiang talking to an officer before that officer left. After consolidating the information, Gu Dajiang was indeed no longer in Qingyuan Prefecture. She rubbed the space between her eyebrows. Wouldn't that be like looking for a needle in a haystack? Madame Yang suddenly blinked and said, "The Gu family." Chapter 280. Returning to the Gu family. Gu Yundong was stunned and immediately stood up. That's right, the Gu family. Many of the refugees who had escaped from Yongning Prefecture had returned after the disaster relief from the imperial court. When Gu Dajiang left Qingyuan Prefecture, he either went to the Shuanhe Prefecture after receiving news of them, or he only knew that they weren't in Qingyuan Prefecture. Then, the first place he would go would probably be the Gu family. It was closer to Yongning Prefecture from Qingyuan Prefecture. Gu Yundong thought that since she was out, she might as well take this opportunity to return to old Gus' house. It would be best if they could find Gu Dajiang. If they couldn't, they had to seek revenge. She still remembered the time when Gu Dai hit her on the head and stole her money. At the thought of this, Gu Yundong lowered her head and began to write. She wrote 2 letters, one to Aunt Ko and the other to Shao Qingyuan. She said that she might need some time to go back and asked them to take care of the family and not worry about her. After writing, she stuffed it into a long and thin post box made of bamboo and brought the letter to shopkeeper Chao. She wanted to find out if there were reputable caravans going to the Shuanhe Prefecture in 2 days. Unexpectedly, the Huimin Medical Center was about to send a batch of medicine to the medical center in the Shuanhe Prefecture. Moreover, they were in a hurry and would set off in the afternoon. Gu Yundong immediately handed the mailbox containing the letter to shopkeeper Chao. She gave the leader of the delivery team money and asked him to deliver the letter. With shopkeeper Chao around, there was naturally no need to worry. Shopkeeper Chao was a little emotional when he found out that she was leaving. Gu Yundong had asked him to tell Bai Yang that she was leaving if he saw him again, so that she would not drop by. Then, Gu Yundong began to pack her things. She went to the notice board and took off Gu Dajiang's portrait. From Wang Xiaomei, other than knowing that her father was not in the Qingyuan Prefecture, she also knew that her father had also contributed to catching bandits. She was worried that someone would hate him and look for him everywhere with this portrait. This portrait was too lifelike. When Gu Yundong took off the portrait, she heard the surrounding people discussing. Only then did she know that someone had really used this portrait to find the person. It was the blacksmith brothers. Gu Yundong felt that it was quite good. Although it was immoral to use them back then, she had also helped them. She hoped that others would find what they wanted. When Gu Yundong took the portrait and left the notice wall with Madame Yang, she happened to see Bao Chunhua. This person frowned and looked at her with a complicated gaze. After a long time, he went forward and said, "What my wife said that day was all fake. She made it up. Gu Dajiang might still be in Qingyuan Prefecture." Gu Yundong wanted to laugh. Although Wang Xiaomei was a little selfish and heartless, this Bao Chunhua was not bad. She took 2 steps closer and said in a low voice, "Brother, don't worry. Gu Dajiang doesn't owe me money. I only wrote on the notice that he doesn't want to repay the debt because I want to find him as soon as possible." She didn't mention her relationship with Gu Dajiang. After all, it wasn't to that extent. Bao Chunhua was stunned. Really? Otherwise, do you think 2 weak women like us can really ask Gu Dajiang for the debt even if we find him? She took out a banknote worth 10 taels of silver. "This is the promised silver. Take it." Bao Chunhua took a few steps back and refused to take it. "I can't take it. My wife was up to no good." But she gave me information after all. Take it. Gu Yundong stuffed the banknote into his hand and left with Madame Yang. Bao Chunhua stood rooted to the ground and did not speak for a long time. Gu Yundong bought some more things from the Qingyuan prefecture and returned the house. She set off the next day. Chapter 281, Explosive Luck. This time, they did not feel as anxious as before. Instead, they walked much slower. The journey to Eternal Peace Prefecture was obviously much more desolate. Previously, the refugees had migrated on a large scale and eaten everything they could on the way. Now that everything was slowly recovering, there were many tea houses on the way. Although the tea leaves cooked were all of inferior quality, they were still enough for everyone to take a break. Gu Yundong walked just like that for 2 days. That day, she ordered a bowl of fried rice with plain water in the tea house. Unexpectedly, the taste of the fried rice was simply indescribable. Gu Yundong really could not eat it, but Madame Yang did not feel much. It seemed alright, but after eating more than half a bowl, she drank 2 pots of water. Hence, not long after setting off in the afternoon, she could not hold it in any more and stammered that she wanted to get out of the carriage. Gu Yundong did not know whether to laugh or cry. She found a secluded spot and parked the carriage. Then, she brought her inside and kept watch for her so that she could answer nature's call. However, Gu Yundong had only waited for a moment when she realized that there was something familiar on the tree trunk in the distance. She had good eyesight and roughly read it. After squinting and staring for a while, she suddenly took out her own manuscript from her space. It was the medical book that Song Dajiang had copied previously. After flipping through a few pages, she indeed found a medicinal herb. Although Gu Yundong could not remember the characteristics of herbs, she was a painter and was sensitive to pictures. Coupled with the introduction in the medical book, the herb did grow in the cracks of the tree trunk. There were also purple flowers. It looked ripe. Joy flashed across Gu Yundong's face. Her luck was so good. She could even meet a precious medicinal herb when they came to pee. Madame Yang had already tidied up her complicated clothes and walked over. Dong dong, let's go. Mother, let's go over there to pick something. Madame Yang looked in the direction she was pointing and nodded. Gu Yundong held her hand and walked carefully, avoiding the messy grass. When they finally reached the tree, Gu Yundong's face darkened. On the other side of the tree, a man was climbing up. His hand was about to reach the herb. Gu Yundong glared at him. Wait a minute. The man was so frightened by her that he almost fell from the tree. He hurriedly hugged the tree trunk with both hands and looked down. Only then did Gu Yundong realize that the other party was only a child less than 10 years old. At this moment, the child opened her black eyes and looked at her in confusion. What's wrong? Gu Yundong coughed lightly. Well, do you know what this is? Isn't it a flower? The boy said. I think it looks good, so I'll take it back for my sister to play with. Play with? It's an herb. Gu Yundong's head hurt. This was first come, first served. She was not someone who could easily bully by a child. But, sister, do you like this flower too? I'll give it to you. I'll help you pick it. He had an innocent smile on his face and was very enthusiastic. Gu Yundong's conscience hurt a little. Just now, she was still thinking of tricking this child into giving her the flower. The child quickly plucked the flower and handed it to her in a hurry. Then, he said shyly, Sister, you're very beautiful. The flower is also beautiful. Then, he was about to leave. Gu Yundong clutched her chest. Wait, these are herbs. I'll pay for them. She was the kind of person who could not withstand sugar-coated bullets. The child was stunned for a moment before his eyes lit up. Herbs. Then I have another one. Sister, do you still want it? Another one. Wasn't this medicinal herb very precious? Why was it so common? Yes, where is it? It's over there. My basket is there. I'll take you there. He was very happy and hurriedly led the way. Yundong followed, but not long after, she suddenly stopped. A moment later, she turned her head stiffly and looked at a grave not far away. Chapter 282. Cousin is dead. The child walked for a while before realizing that she was not following him. He hurriedly turned his head to look. Seeing that she was staring at the grave not far away, he was a little vexed and said uneasily, "Sister, are you afraid of this? Then I'll take you to another path. Don't be afraid. Well, just take a detour. It's not far." Actually, there were more than one grave here. He was just hasty and was used to this path. He didn't expect this. Looking at their good clothes, they definitely didn't walk the mountain path often. He should have asked the sister to wait for him and brought the things over himself. Yundong heaved a sigh of relief and shook her head. "I'll go over and take a look." She still held Madame Yang's hand and slowly walked towards the grave she had just seen. The grave was very simple, and the tombstone in front was only a rough wooden board. What made Yundong's expression change was the words carved on the wooden board, "Tomb of my beloved wife, Bien Mulan." Below that was, "Husband, Ding Jincheng." It was rare to see someone with the surname Bien. Coincidentally, her eldest uncle's surname was Bien. Her eldest aunt's daughter was called Bien Mulan. Eldest aunt's son-in-law was called Ding Jincheng. Although she knew that it was hard to predict life and death on the way to escape, as long as she did not see their bodies or hear news of their death, she would always think positively. However, she did not expect to see this grave at this moment. The child walked to her side and looked at her, then at the graves. He said in a low voice, "Sister, there are a few graves here. I heard that they all died after escaping from Yongning Prefecture. Do you know the people inside?" Yundong took a deep breath and blinked. Feeling less bitter, she slowly nodded. "She might be my cousin." The child immediately fell silent, not knowing what to say to comfort her. After a while, he said softly, maybe they have the same name. Some time ago, someone came to move his family's grave, but they moved the wrong one. That person is alive and well." Yundong was stunned. She turned to look at the child who was trying his best to comfort her and nodded. "What you said makes sense. Maybe she wasn't dead. There were always many mistakes in this world." She took another look at the grave and thought for a moment before asking the child, "Do you live nearby?" "Yes, that's our village." "Let's go to your village to take a look. I want to ask someone to help repair this grave. After we confirm it, we'll decide if we should move the grave." If she was really her cousin, she would naturally come over. Moving the grave was not a small matter. If it wasn't for her cousin, it wouldn't be a big deal to fix it. The child nodded and brought her to the place where he kept his basket. Because of this incident, the child was very silent along the way. His destination was not far away. He saw his things and quickly ran forward. Yundong finally understood why he did not carry the basket with him. The basket was filled with pig grass, wild vegetables, and wild fruits. It looked very heavy. This child was thin and weak. He would die of exhaustion if he carried it. The child squatted down and began to rummage through the basket on his back. After a while, he smiled and took out a purple flower. "Sister, this is it." Yundong took a closer look and could not help but pat her forehead. It seemed that Dr. Song was not lying to her. This medicinal herb was indeed rare. Seeing her like this, the smile on the child's face froze. It's not an herb. Chapter 283. How much is it? Yundong shook his head. I don't think this flower was picked from a tree, right? No. This was found in the grass. It had been blown over by the wind back then. It swayed beautifully. The child shook his head in disappointment and kept the flower. It turned out that only herbs that grew on trees were considered medicinal herbs. Yundong waved the one in his hand. But there's one here. It's not like there's no harvest, right? The child raised his head again and nodded vigorously. Yundong then asked, Is your village far from here? Just go down that way. It's not far. The kid pointed. Although it was not far, in fact, it was still a distance away. Yundong's carriage was still parked on the other side. She picked up the child's basket. Let's take the carriage. I still have to find someone in your village to help tidy up the graves. Do you have any rooms at home? Can I rent them for 2 days? The child quickly nodded. Yes, yes, yes. However, he quickly frowned again. But my house is dilapidated. You must not be used to living here. Yundong thought to herself, when she was escaping from the disaster, what kind of lousy place had she not stayed in? There was nothing to be afraid of. The three of them walked to the carriage. Only then did Yundong know that the child's name was Stinky Egg. His real name did not exist. When Stinky Egg reached the carriage, he could not help but look at it curiously. Yundong asked him to get into the carriage. He quickly shook his head, afraid that he would dirty the carriage. In the end, he sat carefully on the shaft of the carriage with the basket on his back and spoke to Yundong, who was also sitting on the shaft. Madame Yang gave him a piece of pastry, but he only accepted it after rejecting it for a long time. Yundong saw that this child was really honest. She thought for a moment and asked him while they were on the way, I'm asking you how much you plan to sell these herbs for. Ah. Stinky Egg blinked, a little distressed. He didn't know how much it was worth, but seeing that his sister seemed to value it very much, this medicinal herb should be very precious, right? After thinking for a while, he stretched out a trembling finger hesitantly. Yundong raised her eyebrows. 100 taels. Stinky Egg was shocked and hurriedly shook his head. No, it's 1 tael. Yundong was speechless. Although Dr. Song, that unreliable person, did not specify the value of this herb on the medical book, based on his knowledge and experience as an imperial physician in the palace, even he said that the herb in this book was precious. It was at least 50 taels. This child wanted 1 tael. Yundong felt that she would probably be struck by lightning. Stinky Egg explained in a low voice, our family owes someone 2 taels of silver. I don't know how much this costs either. Can I sell it for 1 tael? Sister, if you think it's too expensive, you can give me however much you want. Yundong shook her head. I don't think it's expensive. I just think it's too cheap. Giving you 1 tael seems like I'm bullying you. Ah. Stinky Egg blinked. 1 tael was still cheap. In his heart, 1 tael of silver was already a lot of money. His family had owed 2 taels of silver for a year and had yet to repay it. However, he was still very happy to hear Yundong say that. Hence, he pursed his lips and suppressed his smile. He said, then, 2 taels it is. He still couldn't control his expression, and the corners of his mouth curled up. Yes, with 2 taels of silver, the family would be much more relaxed. Yundong looked at the sky speechlessly. It's still too cheap. Ah. Stinky Egg was shocked and could not help but swallow hard. How much silver is that? Chapter 284, Silly Stinky Egg, about 50 tales. Gu Yundong thought sadly. If it was possible, she would also give him 2 taels of silver. Really, it was not easy for her to earn money. But she wanted to live a peaceful life. It was better to be a good person. However, 50 taels of silver was the bottom line. It could not be more. After all, she had spent a lot of money in the Qingyuan prefecture. She had paid a sum of money for accommodation, the portrait, food, sending the letter, and buying all kinds of things. Also, it seemed that she had not given the consultation fee to Dr. Song. Uncle Bai Yang had given the man silver as thanks, and the officers had also rewarded her. This trip didn't seem to be a loss. Thinking of this, Gu Yundong felt much better. 50 taels of silver was not a lot at all. After she finished pondering, she happened to see a fork in the road ahead. She quickly turned around and asked Stinky Egg, where. She stopped mid-sentence. She watched helplessly as Stinky Egg's eyes widened like a wooden man's, and the basket in her hand fell without warning. Gu Yundong hurriedly shouted, grabbed the basket on her back, and placed it inside. Stinky Egg trembled violently and finally came back to his senses. He pointed to the road on the left. Then, he dug his ears hard. Sister Gu, I think I was struck by lightning just now. I was unconscious and heard something strange. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. You didn't hear wrongly. It's 50 taels. Stinky Egg looked like he had been struck by lightning again. Gu Yundong shook her head and ignored him. After a while, Stinky Egg grabbed the shaft of the carriage and smiled foolishly. Seeing that Stinky Egg's village was not far away, Gu Yundong shook him and reminded him, but don't tell anyone. If others ask, just say that the herbs were sold for 2 taels of silver and that they were all used to repay the debt. Do you hear me? This village was very poor. After all, many refugees had passed through the village from Yongning Prefecture to Qingyuan Prefecture a few months ago. Although this place still belonged to Qingyuan Prefecture, if the prefectural city was in such a state, how good could the surrounding villages be? If others knew that his family suddenly had a lot of money, they would probably be in trouble. Stinky Egg hurriedly nodded and pointed to a courtyard. That's my house. The carriage went all the way, just like the first time they went to Yongfu village. Many people followed curiously. Gu Yundong had to look for the village chief to sort out the graves. When they found out that someone was hiring people to work, they naturally fought to recommend themselves. But Gu Yundong did not need many people. In the end, including Stinky Egg's father, only 3 people were enough. She had also seen Stinky Egg's family. His parents were indeed very honest. He also had a timid sister who hid shyly when she saw her. She had given 50 taels of silver to Stinky Egg's parents and explained the situation. The 2 were so excited that they cried tears of joy. They slaughtered a chicken for Gu Yundong and her mother on the spot. Gu Yundong stayed in the village for 2 days before leaving. Unexpectedly, it was raining again. Therefore, by the time she set off again, 5 to 6 days had passed. Stinky Egg and her sister were already familiar with her and could not bear to part with her. The rest of the journey was rather smooth, but after seeing Bien Mulan's grave, Gu Yundong's heart felt heavy. Madame Yang seemed to understand and took a few days to recover. Half a month later, the carriage finally entered the prefectural city of Yongning Prefecture. Compared to Qingyuan Prefecture, this place seemed even more desolate. Gu Yundong found an inn and planned to stay in the city for a day before going to the county tomorrow. However, just as she settled down and was about to bring Madame Yang out to buy some clothes, she felt as if someone was watching her from behind. Chapter 285, So You're That Quack. Gu Yundong frowned. When she reached the entrance of the alley, she finally stopped and turned to look at the person behind them. When that person saw her turn around, not only did he not leave, but he also approached her with a happy expression. Yundong tried her best to recall for a long time. She was sure that she had never seen this thin middle-aged man. The man walked up to them in a few steps and looked at Madame Yang. Sister-in-law, we meet again. Do you still remember me? However, Madame Yang's body suddenly tensed up. She subconsciously touched her head and leaned against Yundong tightly. Her other hand almost hurt her palm. Yundong frowned and stood in front of Madame Yang, blocking her view. May I ask who you are? Do you know my mother? Your mother? The man immediately smiled. So you're this sister-in-law's daughter. Where's your father? Why don't I see him? You know my parents? Yundong was surprised. The man nodded and said with a smile, of course I know her. Previously, when your mother came to the prefectural city to treat her illness, I was the one who performed acupuncture on her. However, after what happened in Yongning Prefecture, I didn't see your parents again. I was worried about your mother's condition and was afraid that she would delay the treatment. Now that she looks good, it seems that the acupuncture last time was very effective. Coincidentally, our family's medical center is over there. Miss, bring your mother over. I'll take a look at her again. Yundong's pupils constricted and her face was instantly filled with anger. She still clearly remembered what doctor he had said after seeing her mother. If it weren't for the fact that she had met a quack doctor who didn't have the ability and still performed acupuncture, her mother's illness wouldn't have become even more serious. If she had not met Song Dajiang this time, who knew what would have happened to her mother? Great, so this was the quack doctor. She hadn't even come looking for him, but this person had already bumped into her. Doctor Yu did not notice Yundong's expression. He was secretly glad. He really did not expect to meet this fool from the Gu family here. Looking at her clothes, she was much richer than in the past. She must be rich now. Her man was not by her side, and there was only a little girl in her teens in front of her. His medical hall had not been doing much business recently. Some time ago, there was a new medical hall in the city. The shopkeeper and waiter there were like slaves. No matter what patient it was, they would welcome them warmly with a smile. It was simply demeaning to their reputation as doctors. However, those patients just had to fall for this trick. All of them went to this new medical hall to treat their illnesses. Later on, they even went around saying that the doctors in the medical center were skilled and made the old medical center cold. Now that he had finally met this fool, he could finally open for business. Dr. Yu had a deep impression of Dajiang and his wife. After all, although the two of them were dressed in tattered clothes, they were quite good-looking. Especially since Dajiang was extremely good to his silly wife. He coaxed her like she was a child. If it was Dr. Yu himself, his wife would definitely be locked up at home first to avoid embarrassing herself. At that time, he would have an excuse to take in a concubine. How good would that be? Dr. Yu despised Dajiang, but on the surface, he still said to Yundong very kindly, Miss, don't worry. I'm just taking a simple look. After all, I treated your mother in the past. If she recovers, I won't charge you. If she doesn't recover, we can't waste time. We have to perform acupuncture again as soon as possible. Yundong was so angry that she laughed. She raised her leg and kicked him. Chapter 286, Go home and eat soiled yar. Yu exclaimed and rolled on the ground. The people beside him quickly looked over. Someone reached out and helped him up. However, Dr. Ye's face was ashen. He pointed at Yundong with a trembling finger. You, what are you doing? What am I doing? Gu Yundong sneered. She wanted to kick him again, but Madame Yang, who was behind her, pulled her tightly. She could only stand on the spot. You Quack. You don't even know any medical skills, yet you still dare to inject someone's head with needles. You are a sick person with a sharp mouth and monkey cheeks. Your patients are simply unlucky to meet you. Gods are everywhere. How many people have you killed? Aren't you afraid that those people will come to settle scores with you in the middle of the night? Dr. Yes' expression changed slightly. The people beside him also looked at him in surprise. Someone recognized him and could not help but frown. Dr. Yu panicked and said angrily, "Where did this wild girl come from? What nonsense are you talking about? I was kind enough to treat your mother, but you want to shirk the consultation fee and spread rumors about me, ruining my reputation. When have I killed someone?" He naturally knew how bad his medical skills were. Therefore, when he encountered patients with minor illnesses and pains, he would stall for time to get them to take expensive medicine. Anyway, they would not die. He would let them do it a few more times. He would shake his head if he could not treat a serious illness. He would the patients prepare for their funeral. Whether they could survive or not was up to fate. He would cheat Madame Yang firstly because the other party was not from the prefecture capital. He would charge as much as he could. He would not have a chance next time. Secondly, Madame Yang was a fool. Even if he treated her wrongly, she would not be able to explain it clearly. Therefore, Dr. Yu really did not prescribe the wrong medicine in the prefecture capital to cause death. He felt that his conscience was clear. Gu Yundong picked up a broken piece of wood and threw it at him. "I've ruined your reputation. Some time ago, the imperial physician who retired from the palace personally treated my mother. He personally said that quack doctors misled people and dared to inject needles into people's heads without knowing anything. It caused my mother to vomit blood and faint for a few days, becoming weaker and weaker day by day. If I hadn't met that imperial physician, my mother would have been killed by you now. You met us today and still want to trick us into paying you for your treatment? It's already good enough that I didn't settle scores with you." It was physician he who said that quacks misled people, but this did not stop her from using physician Song's name to scare people. Everyone, take a good look at this person's face. He doesn't even have basic medical ethics. What kind of doctor is he? Go home and eat dirt. When everyone heard that the imperial physician had come out of the imperial hospital, they inexplicably believed her. Someone even whispered, "Speaking of which, Dr. Yu seems to take a long time to treat people." That's right. The last time my neighbor caught a cold, it wasn't very serious. However, after seeing Dr. Yu, she took a full month of bitter medicine. When Dr. Yu heard what the others said, his face alternated between green and white. He glared at Gu Yundong angrily and turned to leave. "Stop." Gu Yunshu still wanted to hit him. The more she spoke, the angrier she became. This scumbag had caused her mother to become like this. If not for him messing around, her mother would have been cured by Dr. He in the Xuanhe prefecture last time. Why wait for Dr. Song's by Musi? She wished she could chop this beast into pieces. But Madame Yang held on to her tightly. Gu Yundong turned around and realized that her face was pale and she was sweating profusely. Gu Yundong was shocked and hurriedly held her. Mother, what's wrong?" Chapter 287, Don't let her scream, don't let her cry. Gu Yundong was extremely vexed. She had been so focused on beating up Dr. Yu that she had neglected her mother. She quickly helped Madame Yang sit down. An aunt kindly gave her a glass of water. Gu Yundong took it and thanked her before feeding it to Madame Yang. Then, she wiped her sweat with a handkerchief. "Mother, how are you?" However, Madame Yang suddenly hugged her. "Dong dong, I'm not going. I'm not going. He's doing acupuncture. It hurts. It hurts so much. Yundong was stunned. She quickly patted her back. All right. I'm not going. I'll stay here with mother, okay? Madame Yang nodded and slowly exhaled. After a while, she smiled again. She held Yundong's hand and said, "Go back and rest." Yeah. The two of them returned to the inn. Along the way, Yundong chatted and laughed with Madame Yang. She did not mention Dr. Yu at all. However, the anger in her heart kept rising. When she reached the entrance of the inn, she saw a few beggars squatting not far away. Her eyes narrowed slightly. If Madame Yang didn't let her go, could she not find someone else? After entering the room, Yundong wanted to coax Madame Yang to rest. Unexpectedly, she took the initiative to hold Yundong's hand and said very seriously, "Dong, I'm not going. He poked my head. It hurts. He didn't even let me scream or cry." She became aggrieved. Yundong's heart ached when she heard that. Quack doctors harmed people. Quack doctors harmed people. It was simply intolerable for such a person to live so comfortably. As she took out the puzzle for Madame Yang, she wiped her face and asked in a very gentle voice, "Where's father? Was father not around?" "Huh?" Madame Yang thought for a moment. "He's boiling water. The doctor asked your father to boil water. He needed it." Yundong understood. Dr. Yu had deliberately instructed Dajiang to boil water and then inject Madame Yang. She wasn't allowed to scream or cry. Dajiang couldn't hear her voice, and he didn't expect a doctor in the prefecture to not know how to administer acupuncture. He didn't expect her to suffer so much pain. Yundong was furious. Wasn't her father quite smart? Why did he make a mistake at this time and not see the true nature of a quack? "Your father was so worried about me," Madame Yang said. "I laughed with him after he boiled the water." Yundong took a deep breath and said with a smile, "Yes, mother is so obedient. But if it hurts in the future, you must scream. Otherwise, we won't know that the person is a bad person." "Ah. All right." Madame Yang nodded and took the puzzle. She hadn't seen Ashu and Kiki today. If she pieced the puzzle together quickly, she would be able to see them. Yundong was slightly relieved to see that she seemed to be fine again. She called her softly, "Mother." "Huh?" Madame Yang didn't even look up. "Aren't you afraid of needles?" At least, she was calm after Song Dajiang injected her twice. Other than being a little nervous, she was not afraid. Madame Yang looked up in confusion. "Why should I be afraid? Dr. Song was fine. Dong was there, so I was not afraid. That bad person was fierce to me and glared at me, not letting me scream." Yundong did not ask further. Madame Yang was not afraid of needles, but humans. Dr. Song spoke softly. He would chat with Madame Yang first and let her speak if she was uncomfortable. He did not feel any pain when he performed acupuncture her. Moreover, she had always been by her side. Of course, this was the best. It was just that she was afraid of the bad doctor, so she just asked that person not to appear in front of Madame Yang. She looked at Madame Yang's excited face and got up. "Mother, I'll get the waiter to serve the food. I'll be ready soon." Yundong went downstairs, but left the inn and walked towards where the beggars were. Chapter 288, Fire. At this moment, Dr. Yu was sweating and anxiously entering the Rinshin medical hall. How unlucky. That girl who looked easy to bully was actually so fierce. Fortunately, he ran quickly. Otherwise, everyone would know about this. The owner of the medical center was drinking tea in the backyard with his legs crossed. When he saw him running over with a guilty expression, he could not help but ask, "What are you doing? You're so flustered." Those who don't know might think that a dog is chasing you behind. Yu Yue froze and immediately turned around with a flattering smile. "Boss, I saw that the sky was gloomy and it was about to rain. I ran a little faster." The owner of Rinshin Medical Hall was surnamed Geng. When he heard this, he looked up. "Isn't the weather quite good? I heard from the uncle who sold the groceries that it might be going down soon." "Is that so?" Boss Geng's face was filled with disbelief, but he quickly put this matter aside and asked irritably, "How's business today?" "It's just a few minor illnesses." Speaking of this, Yu Yue had a bitter expression on his face. Even so, they're still finding all kinds of excuses to ask for arrears in treatment fees. "No." Boss Geng snorted. "It's all because of that new lousy medical center that snatched the patients. A strong dragon can't suppress a local snake. They came from other prefectural cities and don't know any rules before opening a medical center." He stood up and took 2 steps in the courtyard. "No, I can't wait anymore. I'll get someone to smash this lousy medical center tomorrow." In fact, Rinshin Medical Hall was quite big at first. It was considered one of the top medical facilities in Yongning Prefecture. There were also a few doctors in the medical hall. Otherwise, Gu Dajiang wouldn't have brought Madame Yang over. However, during the disaster, refugees appeared everywhere and the medical hall was closed. The doctors in the medical center had also left or died. Currently, there were only 2 doctors left. One was Dr. Yu, who was only average in medical skills and was hired because of his relationship with the Geng family. However, at this critical juncture, several new clinics were opened. Among them, the Huimin Medical Center was the most infuriating. When Yu Yue heard him say this, he quickly went up and asked, "What does the boss plan to do? Find a person who is about to die and carry him to the medical center?" "No, this method is too old-fashioned. Think of something else." "Then, should we say that their medicinal herbs are inferior but sold at a high price?" "No, this has been used on other clinics last time, and it's not of much use." "Then send some silver to their doctors so that they can fight each other." "You think my money came from the wind and you're giving them silver? Keep thinking." "Yes, find a few hooligans." "No, no. Think again." Yu Yue frowned and began to think. The 2 of them pondered again and again until the sky turned dark. Then, they entered the house and lit the oil lamp. The 2 of them pondered for another hour before they were finally satisfied. "All right, go and rest. We'll leave early tomorrow morning." "All right, don't worry, boss. I will definitely make sure that Huimin Medical Center can't continue operating in our Yongning Prefecture. I will let it know that it can't offend just anyone." Boss Geng was very satisfied with his hot-blooded speech. Yu Yue smiled and was about to leave. However, just as he turned around, his nose twitched slightly, as if he had smelled something. "Boss, do you smell?" Before he could finish speaking, he saw flames soaring into the sky outside. His expression instantly changed. There's a fire. Boss, there's a fire." Chapter 289, Gu Yundong set the fire. Boss Geng also stood up and rushed out of the room. Yu Yue couldn't care less. He ran towards the courtyard door at the back anxiously. When he reached the back door, he realized that it could not be opened at all. He quickly turned around to look for an axe. He did not expect it to be snatched away by Boss Geng, who had also run over. He was stunned. "Boss, you what? Why are you running? Can't you smell that the medicine in our clinic is burnt?" Hurry up and save the medicine. As he spoke, he kicked Yu Wei into the storeroom. The fire came from the hall, and the medicine and the cabinet in the hall might not be able to be rescued. However, there was even more medicine in the storeroom. That was his assets. Without those assets, how could he open a clinic? He could just wait to go bankrupt. I'm telling you, if you dare to run, it'll break your legs. Seeing that the fire had not spread to the storeroom, Yu Wei gritted his teeth and went in. Boss Gung threw the axe aside and followed him into the storeroom. The two of them carried the herbs to the cart in the courtyard bit by bit. They were sweating profusely and their backs ached. Seeing that the fire was about to reach them, Yu Wei retreated after only moving a third of the medicinal herbs. Boss, let's escape quickly. Otherwise, it'll be too late. At this moment, the sound of people coming and going to put out the fire could be heard outside the door. It seemed like someone was helping to smash the backyard door. Boss Gung was relieved and said to Yu Wei, let's each carry out another bag. Take out the boxes in the innermost area. Yu Wei went in hurriedly. At this moment, the person who was smashing the door outside finally came in. At first glance, he almost vomited blood from anger when he saw the two of them running into the storeroom to move the medicine in the thick smoke. Are the two of you crazy? Such a big fire is coming. Instead of escaping or putting out the fire, you actually want to move the herbs. Is money more important than human lives? The people outside came in one after another. They fetched water and put out the fire. Fortunately, the houses nearby were not close to each other, and they reacted in time, so the spread was not too big. Yundong still did not know how serious the incident at Rinxin Medical Hall was. She rested after accompanying Madame Yang for dinner. The next day, she packed her things and prepared to leave. Unexpectedly, just as she walked out of the inn, a group of people suddenly rushed over. The leader, Yu Wei, pointed at her with a trembling finger and said, "It's her. She was the one who got someone to burn down our medical center." "It's her." Yundong was surprised. "Burn down the medical center?" Yu Wei's face was dark, and his clothes were tattered. She almost didn't recognize him. This was, perhaps because of this, Madame Yang did not recognize him, so she was not as flustered as yesterday. She only grabbed Yundong's hand in confusion. Yundong raised her eyebrows. "Uncle, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. What do you mean by burning down your medical center? Please explain what happened." "Uncle, you're the uncle. Yu Wei. You even hit me yesterday." He wiped his face forcefully, but his sleeve was black. The more he wiped, the dirtier he became. "Miss, Rinxin Medical Hall was on fire last night and the fire was only put out this morning. The owner of the medical hall, Gung Yi, had his leg injured, and all the medicinal herbs in the hall were destroyed. The doctor of the medical hall, Yu Wei, claims that you ordered someone to set the fire to take revenge on him. Please come with us." A constable walked forward and said to Yundong with a cold face. Chapter 290, Kneeling Wrong. Yundong understood. So she was not the only one who had been offended by Rinxin Medical Hall, right? She glanced at Yu Wei. "Is it me just because he said so? Where's the evidence? You also said that he has a personal grudge against me. I'm afraid he's taking this opportunity to frame me." "Bullshit. I'm telling the truth." The constable said expressionlessly, "Whether it's true or not, the prefecture magistrate will find out. There's no need for the two of you to argue here. If there's anything, you can talk it out at the government office." Yundong had seen quite a few constables, but this was the first time she had seen someone so impartial. It seemed like there was no need to set off today. She would just make a trip to the government office. She held Madame Yang's hand and comforted her softly. Only then did the constable look back at her. As soon as they left, the crowd who had joined in the fun also followed behind, wanting to see what was going on. Yundong realized that she was really fated with the government office. Whenever she went to a prefectural city, she would have to deal with the government office there. Although she had never seen the prefecture magistrate of Xuanhe Prefecture, he took care of her on account of Nyakang. She had never seen the prefecture magistrate of Qingyuan Prefecture either, but it could be seen that he was a very smart person to set up an ambush to capture a small thief. Now that she was finally going to meet the prefecture magistrate, she suddenly felt a little excited. However, this excitement disappeared when she was about to kneel. Damn it, it was better not to see him. In order not to let Madame Yang suffer, Yundong simply let her stand outside and listen to the trial. Coincidentally, the auntie who had given them water yesterday was also there, so Yundong asked her to help take care of her mother. Then, she walked in and knelt on the ground unwillingly. The iron-faced constable wanted to remind her that the way she knelt was wrong, but he saw the prefecture magistrate come out. The prefecture magistrate raised his eyebrows and didn't say anything, so the constable shut his mouth. As soon as Yu Wei saw him, he shouted, "Sir, you have to uphold justice for me." Shut up. How can you make a ruckus in court? Yu Wei's voice stopped abruptly. He looked with a trembling expression at the private advisor who spoke. Yundong pursed her lips and wanted to laugh. She looked at the prefecture magistrate and saw him sitting lazily on a chair. No wonder he didn't care that her kneeling posture was wrong. It turned out that he didn't sit properly either. The prefecture magistrate didn't say anything either. He just glanced at the private advisor beside him. The private advisor coughed lightly. "All right, you." Chapter 291. Pressing closer, the private advisor finished recording the statement and turned to ask Yundong, "What do you say?" Yundong shrugged and said, "I've never left the house." "Even if you've never left the house, you can ask someone else to do it." Yu Wei glared at her angrily. "Who?" "The beggars in the city. The waiter of Fulongin saw you go out after you returned with his own eyes and look for the beggars outside. He also saw you give them silver. If you didn't order them to set fire, what else could it be?" Yu Wei snorted. The assistant took a note and said, "Bring the waiter of Fulong into the hall." The waiter came over quickly and replied as if he was Yu Wei, "I was far away at that time and didn't see if she was giving money, but when those beggars passed by me, I saw them happily biting the silver." Yu Wei looked at Yundong. "What else do you have to say?" "Oh, where are the beggars?" the private advisor also asked. He turned to look at the cold-faced constable. The latter shook his head, indicating that he had not found the beggars. Yu Wei said angrily, "They must have been silenced by you." "Where's the evidence?" Yundong asked again. The prefecture magistrate, who was slumped lazily in his seat, finally looked at her. "Ha!" The young lady was so young. Not only was she calm, but she was also pressing on step by step. He could not help but be interested. Yu Wei, who was in the hall, was speechless. Yundong, on the other hand, spoke with a smile. "Since you have no evidence, shouldn't it be my turn to say a few words?" Yu Wei was about to object when the private advisor nodded. "Speak." "I have to explain Dr. Ye's words. Firstly, about Yu Wei being a quack, I didn't say this. It was determined by the former Imperial Hospital's imperial physician, Song Dajiang. I was lucky enough to meet Dr. Song. He saw that I was seeking treatment for my mother out of filial piety and took action to treat my mother. In the end, he told me a very bad result. Because Yu Yue randomly treated my mother, the blood clot in my mother's brain spread and her life was in danger. It was Dr. Song who saved my mother. I was grateful to him and naturally hated Yu Yue. Everyone was in an uproar when they heard that. The imperial physician said that. It couldn't be wrong. Even the prefecture magistrate looked up and nodded slightly. Imperial physician Song is indeed brilliant. These words were more effective than anything else. Yu Yue immediately panicked. I didn't. Secondly, Gu Yundong interrupted him, you said that I hit you and your clinic caught fire. Later on, you said that I asked someone to set it on fire. But you have no witnesses and no physical evidence. How do I know that you didn't take the opportunity to frame me because you hated me for hitting you? In your eyes, I'm probably just a person with no background in my teens who can be bullied at will. Do you think that as long as I enter the government office, they'll be so afraid that I won't be able to speak and you can throw me into jail as you please? You can also vent your anger. How dare you? What do you think the government office is? The private advisor was talking to Yu Yue. Yu Yue was scared out of his wits. Damn it, who was the one who was so scared that he couldn't speak? Gu Yundong smiled. Thirdly. There's a third. However, the onlookers were excited. Listen, listen, listen. I like to listen to this girl. That's right. She's much clearer and more reasonable than that Quack. Gu Yundong was satisfied. Very good. Everyone had already decided that he was a Quack. Chapter 292. What you say makes more sense. Thirdly, Gu Yundong said faintly, the waiter at Fulongin said that I was in contact with the beggars, but he didn't see what I said to them. How can he conclude that I bribed them to do something bad? Gu Yundong had indeed bribed them, but she did not want them to set a fire. This would easily implicate others. She had no grudges with anyone else, so there was no reason for her to harm them. Therefore, she only asked those beggars to drag Yu Yue out and break one of his hands. She wanted to see how he could treat people and kill them without a hand. Moreover, she asked them to attack today. After all, she had already left when she thought of her. Who knew that there was someone who hated Yu Yue more than her? They even burned down the entire medical center. Everyone knows that my mother is sick. Imperial physician Song said that he still needs a medicine to completely heal my mother. It's just that the medicine is not easy to find. He needs time. My heart aches for my mother, so I naturally pray for that medicine to be found as soon as possible every day. Therefore, when I saw that there were beggars in the city, I suddenly thought that if I did more good deeds, I could accumulate some good karma for my mother and let her recover as soon as possible. It's just my filial piety. I didn't expect him to say that I set fire to kill people. The onlookers sighed when they heard that. That's right. This girl is so filial. It's not easy. That's right. If she wants to treat her mother, why would she set a fire to reduce her fortune? This Quack is always thinking about how to harm people. He doesn't even let a little girl off. Isn't that so? Just because she hit him a few times in anger, tell me, how much strength can a young lady use to hit him? He actually wants to send her to jail. He's not human, he's a beast. Yu Yue was furious. This brat was very strong. She had kicked him to the ground easily. He looked at the other people in the court. The advisor was putting down his pen and rubbing his sore wrist. Yu Yue felt that this guy was being biased. Why didn't he stop this brat from saying so much? If the private advisor had known, he would have scolded him. How could his messy and unpleasant words compare to the organized and exciting speech? Gu Yundong was very calm. She did not even glance at Yue. She said to the private advisor, I'm done. The private advisor nodded. Yes, what you said makes a lot more sense than him. Yu Wei was shocked. Sir, she's just quibbling. No noise in court. After saying that, the private advisor presented his record to the prefecture magistrate. The prefecture magistrate didn't say anything after reading it. He just nodded to show that he understood. The private advisor returned to his seat and said, "Since both sides are only making claims and there's no evidence, we can't confirm the case. We'll investigate this matter after we find the beggars at the entrance of the inn." Gu Yundong frowned. She still had to go to the Gu village. At this moment, there was a commotion at the door. The cold-faced constable went out to take a look and returned quickly. "Sir, there's someone outside who wants to complain. Don't they know there's a case going on here?" The constable said, "The visitors claim that they're here for this case." This time, everyone was stunned. Yu Wei's face flashed with ecstasy. It must be those beggars who came to testify. Gu Yundong glanced at him. Look at how happy he was. Soon, two people came in. Chapter 293. Since I'm here, I'll accept it. However, the two of them were dressed neatly and did not look like beggars. However, when Yu Wei saw the two of them clearly, the smile on his face instantly froze. He even turned pale bit by bit, and a trace of a bad feeling flashed in his eyes. The two of them knelt down. "We are Gao Feng and Gao Yuan. Greetings, sir. Who are you two? Who are you suing?" "Lord, this commoner is Gao Feng, a citizen of Half Moon Village. This is my younger brother, Gao Yuan. We want to sue Yu Wei for disregarding human lives and causing my mother's death." As the two brothers spoke, they looked at Yu Wei angrily. Yu Wei hurriedly denied, "Nonsense, nonsense. I didn't." Gu Yundong silently moved to the side as if it had nothing to do with her. "You did." Gao Yuan became even more irritable. "Half a month ago, my mother was seriously ill. Eldest brother and I took her to Rinxin Medical Hall. We originally wanted to look for Dr. Li, but Dr. Li was busy at that time and couldn't spare any time. Dr. Yu was free, so he took the initiative to come and treat my mother. Later, he prescribed medicine and asked us to go back. However, I didn't expect that after taking the medicine for 3 days, my mother never woke up." As the two brothers spoke, they began to cry. During the disaster, they did not go out, but their father was still gone. Before he died, he asked them to take good care of their mother. Now that their lives had finally improved, not long after, their mother had passed away. At that time, the two of us carried mother to Rinxin Medical Hall. Yu Wei refused to admit it and said that we didn't take good care of mother. He even said that we deliberately came to extort money and said that we didn't have evidence. I took out the prescription he prescribed and he tore it up. It's our fault for being stupid. We shouldn't have gone up to seek an explanation back then. We should have come to the government office to sue him. The assistant nodded and asked, "Even if the prescription is gone, there are still some dregs. Why didn't you go to the government office at that time?" The Gao brothers shook their heads and sobbed. "When we carried mother's corpse back, we realized that there was a thief in the house. Nothing was lost except the medicine dregs. It was Boss Gung of Rinxin Medical Hall who secretly got someone to do it, but we don't have evidence. The village chief said that we can't sue them at all." The private advisor said, "But you don't have any evidence now. Why are you complaining? When we heard that Yu Wei had come to harm others, we thought that even if we didn't have evidence, we had to stand up and let everyone know his true colors so that others wouldn't be harmed." When Gu Yundong heard that she was mentioned, she quickly straightened her body and said to them, "Gentlemen." Anyway, she could not do it. Yu Yue was so angry that his hands trembled. He did not have any evidence on Gu Yundong's side, but what about these two people? They did not have any either. He could only snort coldly. You're all talking nonsense. You can really turn black into white with your mouths. I think you're the helpers this girl found, right? Gu Yundong blinked. Honestly, I really don't know them. Then they've taken a fancy to you. Why don't you take a look at your foxy appearance? Gu Yundong's face darkened. F***ck, this shameless woman. Did she really think that she would not dare to hit him in court? She was secretly rolling up her sleeves when she heard the cold-faced constable say, "We've found those beggars." As he spoke, he glanced at Yu Yue with a strange expression. Yu Yue was very happy. He had finally found the beggars. Now, he would see how this brat died. However, Gu Yundong was very calm. What was they saying? Since she was here, she would take things as they came. Chapter 294, Distorting the Truth. A few beggars came, but everyone was surprised to find that they were actually dressed well. The assistant was also surprised. To be cautious, he called the waiter over. Come and identify them. Are they the beggars you've seen? The waiter didn't even need to look carefully to recognize them at a glance. He nodded to show that he was right. It was not the first day that these beggars stayed not far from the inn. They came almost every day and could not be chased away. The private advisor let him go down and asked the beggars, "Do you know this person?" He pointed at Gu Yundong. The beggars nodded. Yes, yes. One of them said, "This girl went to Fulongin yesterday. Later on, she saw that we were very hungry and had no food to eat, so she was kind enough to give us some silver fragments and asked us to buy some delicious food and clothes to block the cold. This girl is really a good person." That's right, that's right. She's a good person. We wanted to repay her, but she said no. She only said that she did it to accumulate good fortune for her mother. The clothes we're wearing are new. We had something hot this morning. Gu Yundong listened quietly and felt that it was very strange. She had never taught them to say such things, but their responses matched her previous statement. The more Yu Yue listened, the more he felt like his brain was going to explode. But what made him break down completely was yet to come. One of the beggars suddenly stammered and said hesitantly, "Actually, we saw how the fire started last night." Everyone was shocked. Even Yu Yue looked at that person in surprise. The others nodded. We heard someone say that he wanted to burn the Rinxin Medical Hall down. Who said that? A crowd outside asked anxiously. It's Dr. Yu. The few beggars pointed at Yu Yue in unison. Yu Yue was stunned. He looked at the people in front of him in shock. The prefecture magistrate finally straightened up slightly. Tell me everything from the beginning. Yes, sir. Yesterday, we saw Dr. Yu talking to a man wearing a big hat that covered half of his face. He said that since Rinxin Medical Hall was already in decline, it was better to burn it down. He could use this fire to do something. He even gave that person a key to the medical hall. We didn't take it seriously at that time and left. In the end, Rinxin Medical Hall really caught fire. At that time, we were the ones who got others to quickly put out the fire. Actually, they were the ones who wanted to help Gu Yundong break Yu Yui's hand. They had gone to check beforehand, but they did not expect to encounter a fire. Someone outside the court said, "Yes, I can testify that a few beggars shouted and started a fire. I live next door, and they even helped put out the fire." These young men worked hard. After the fire was extinguished, they said that they were hungry before leaving. Yu Yue jumped up as if he had been struck by lightning. You're lying. You're lying. What are you doing? The cold-faced constable stepped forward and kicked his leg, causing him to kneel down. Then, he cupped his fists and said, "Sir, the medical center did start burning from the inside." At this moment, Boss Gung, who had already been bandaged and carried over to listen to the case, pointed at Yu Yue with a furious expression. "It's actually you. I was wondering why you were so flustered when you ran back yesterday. You ran out as soon as the fire burned. Our Gung family has treated you well, but you actually did such a thing." Yu Yue hurriedly shook his head. "I didn't." However, the prefecture magistrate suddenly slapped the wooden stick. "Don't quibble. Now that there are witnesses and evidence, you were the one who set the fire in Rinxin Medical Hall. Men, take him to jail. As for the matter of him causing Mother Gao's death, it has yet to be confirmed. If it's true, well, sentence him accordingly. Everyone, dismissed." With that, he left. The private advisor and constable disappeared. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. Wasn't it so careless? Wasn't there still a witness who had set the fire? She walked out in a daze and held Madame Yang's hand as they left the government office. Then, she saw her carriage parked not far away. She was stunned for a moment. The curtain of the carriage was lifted, revealing a face that she could not believe. Chapter 295, Shao Qingyuan is here. Before Gu Yundong could react, Madame Yang took a few steps forward in surprise. "Qingyuan, why are you here?" Shao Qingyuan got out of the carriage. He looked a little haggard and travel-worn. His dark circles were very thick. Gu Yundong almost thought that she had seen wrongly. She blinked hard. After a long time, she asked, "When did you come?" "I entered the city early this morning," Shao Qingyuan said. Although he looked tired, the light in his eyes seemed to burn. "Get into the carriage first. Aren't we going to the Gu family's village? We can still rush to the county city if we leave now." Gu Yundong got into the carriage in a daze while Shao Qingyuan drove him away. After walking for a while, Gu Yundong suddenly stuck her head out and said, "Let's not go to the Gu village first." "Well, go tomorrow. Let's go back to the inn." Shao Qingyuan immediately turned the carriage around and drove towards Fulong Inn. Gu Yundong patted her head and asked, "Why did you come to Yongning Prefecture?" "After I received your letter, I heard that Yongning Prefecture wasn't peaceful, so I rushed over." "Don't worry, everything has been arranged at home. Nothing will go wrong." Gu Yundong did not know whether to laugh or cry. Looking at his thin back, her mood improved. "What about your horse?" "It's in the caravan." Gu Yundong nodded. "When did you arrive? Have you eaten breakfast? How many days have you not slept? Were those people arranged by you just now? How did you know I was here?" Shao Qingyuan was still in a daze. She seemed to be very concerned about him. Or was he thinking too much? Previously, he was clearly determined, but now, he was actually a little nervous. "Why aren't you saying anything?" Shao Qingyuan suddenly came back to his senses. His grip on the reins tightened slightly, and his voice subconsciously deepened. "I entered as soon as the city gate opened this morning. When I passed by the Rinxin Medical Hall, the fire over there was put out. I originally planned to leave directly, but I heard someone in the crowd call out the words Gu Dajiang's daughter, so I listened. Hence, I heard that Yu Yue planned to pin the blame on Gu Yundong. Coincidentally, he saw that the beggars were planning to leave secretly. His first reaction was that these people had done it. He raised his hand and arrested them. Shao Qingyuan had the means to interrogate them. These beggars were also instructed by Gu Yundong not to tell anyone. Hence, in order to clear the air, the beggar confessed the real murderer, the Gao brothers. Yes, they had indeed seen the Gao brothers set the place on fire. They had seen it when they went to check on the situation. Although they had participated in extinguishing the fire, they did not intend to stand up and identify the Gao brothers. Firstly, they had never thought of meddling in other people's business. Moreover, that Rinxin Medical Hall was not a good thing to begin with. If it was burned, so be it. In any case, it did not burn to anyone else's house. Secondly, what if others asked why they went to Rinxin Medical Hall if they identified them? Wouldn't that expose their original purpose? Shao Qingyuan got the two of them to look for the Gao brothers. The Gao brothers had never thought of letting others take the blame, let alone a little girl. It was a pity that they did not burn Yundong to death. It was Shao Qingyuan who had asked them to go to the court, but they only said that their mother had been killed by Yu Yue. Later on, he was the one who asked the beggars to testify that the fire was set by Yu Yue. Of course, this was very related to the prefecture magistrate. When Shao Qingyuan left Yongfu village, he specially went to Qinwenjing to ask about the officers who had taken office here. The prefecture magistrate was a little strange. As long as he was given a breakthrough, he wouldn't care if he had evidence. He would capture him first. As for evidence, he could take his time to find it, as long as the victim came Toju. Chapter 296, Fiance. Gu Yundong was speechless. The prefecture magistrate was neither good nor evil. She really could not understand what he was thinking. However, she was not in Yongning Prefecture now. It was hard to say if they would have any contact in the future. He did not care about it for now. The carriage quickly arrived at Fulonging. As soon as they got off, they saw the waiter who had testified in the court walk out angrily with a bag. The innkeeper was also furious. "Our inn can't afford you. The guests came to stay at our inn, so you should serve and take care of them. You shouldn't keep an eye on what they did and said. In the end, you even made wild guesses and told others. Do you think anyone will stay at our inn like this? Leave. Leave quickly." The waiter was a little unconvinced. "I went to the court to testify. How can I lie if the prefecture magistrate asked me a question? Do you dare not to say anything in front of the prefecture magistrate?" The shopkeeper sneered. "Of course you should tell the truth in court, but before you went to court, you had already sold this matter to Dr. Yu. You still have the cheek to ask me. Are you leaving or not? If you don't, I'll get someone to beat you out." The shopkeeper grew impatient and turned to call for the others. The waiter quickly grabbed his bag and ran away. When he came out and saw Gu Yundong standing there, he immediately glared at her and snorted. Shao Qingyuan narrowed his eyes and suddenly glanced behind him. On the other side, the beggars who had been talking confidently in the court smiled silently at him. Gu Yundong asked the shopkeeper to get another room. The shopkeeper looked apologetic. "I'm really sorry. Our inn didn't manage well. Miss, you want another room, right? I won't charge you for this room. Treat it as an apology, okay?" Gu Yundong felt that the shopkeeper was a good person. She had originally wanted to grab her stuff and look for another inn. Now that the waiter had been chased away, there was no need. Shao Qingyuan's room was next to hers. Gu Yundong knew that he was busy and had definitely not eaten breakfast. She had wanted to eat something in the hall, but after what had happened in the morning, many people were whispering to her. Gu Yundong asked the waiter to bring some food up. Shao Qingyuan was indeed hungry. Now that Gu Yundong was sitting opposite him, his appetite improved. Unfortunately, the food was not as delicious as hers. After barely finishing 2 big bowls of rice, Shao Qingyuan narrowed his eyes slightly. Gu Yundong saw that he seemed to have lost a lot of weight. His dark circles were also a little heavy. She did not know how long it had been since he had slept properly. Although he was riding a horse at full speed, the Xuanhe prefecture was even further away. He had only set off after receiving the letter and had even arrived here at the same time as her. It was likely that he often traveled overnight. Gu Yundong chased him to bed. It would not be too late to talk after he had slept well. Shao Qingyuan got the waiter to bring hot water and took a comfortable shower. However, he could not fall asleep no matter what. After tossing and turning for more than an hour, he finally sat up, changed into clean clothes, and tidied herself up. Only then did she go out and hesitantly knock on Gu Yundong's door. Gu Yundong looked at him in surprise. "You're not asleep." "I can't sleep." "You can't sleep with such dark circles under your eyes. I've never heard of you having insomnia before." Shao Qingyuan looked uncomfortable. After a while, he said, "I have something to ask you." "What?" "I heard that you have a fiancé here, right?" "Huh?" Gu Yundong's mind was filled with question marks. Fiancé? Why didn't she know? When Gu Yundong saw that all the details were the same as the grave she had seen back then, she was certain that it was indeed her cousin, Bien Mulan. She lowered her head slightly and felt her throat become even drier. "What about my aunt and the others?" Ding Jincheng shook his head. "I don't know." Gu Yundong's expression changed slightly. "What do you mean by you don't know? Didn't my eldest aunt's family leave Yongning Prefecture with you back then? At first, we were indeed together. However, a large group of refugees suddenly rushed out halfway and ran around in a panic. They said that there were bandits killing people behind. We panicked and ran with them. At that time, my parents were together. Mulan, Yuanji, and I were together. My father-in-law and mother-in-law were together. All of us got separated. Later, we found my parents, but we couldn't find my in-laws no matter what. We don't know their whereabouts." Gu Yundong frowned deeply. Suddenly, she seemed to have thought of something. "Where is Yuanji?" Bien Yuanji was the youngest son of her eldest aunt. Ding Jincheng suddenly felt a little guilty and avoided eye contact. Chapter 300, Blind Date. Gu Yundong had a bad feeling. She stood up abruptly. "Where is he?" Not far away, Shao Qingyuan had been paying attention to this side. Seeing that she was angry, he quickly comforted Madame Yang and asked her to sit down and eat something before striding to her side. "What is it?" As he spoke, his sharp gaze landed on Ding Jincheng. He wasn't the only one. Everyone else in the restaurant was staring at their table. Fortunately, Xingxing restaurant was not big, and there were only a few people inside. Ding Jincheng was already frightened by Gu Yundong's sudden anger. Now that he saw Shao Qingyuan again, he could not help but shiver. He hurriedly explained, "He's fine. Before Mulan died, she asked me to take care of Yuanji. I brought him back. He's at the old Gu family now." "The Gu family?" "He actually sent Bien Yuanji to old Gu's house." Damn it, she knew too well what kind of people old Gu and Madame Zhao were. Her aunt and uncle were missing. It would be strange if they could take good care of Bien Yuanji. Unless Gu Dajiang was around. Thinking of this, she hurriedly asked Gu Dajiang if he was back. At this moment, a middle-aged woman walked over from afar. She was holding a young woman in her hand. The two of them were talking as they walked over. "Jincheng, have you ordered food?" "You and I." Before she could finish speaking, she looked up and saw Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan standing beside her. The middle-aged woman was slightly stunned. She sized up the two of them and suddenly smiled. "Are you friends with my Jincheng?" Before Gu Yundong could speak, she heard Ding Jincheng deny it anxiously. "No, mother. They were just asking me about something." Ding Jincheng's mother, Madame Hu, smiled and greeted them. "What's the matter? Ask me. I know everything about the surrounding villages." "No need. I'm done asking." Gu Yundong was in a bad mood and brought Shao Qingyuan back to her table. Before Shao Qingyuan left, he glanced at Ding Jincheng coldly. The latter did not even dare to look back. He could only smile dryly and sit down. There was still a little sweat on his forehead. Madame Hu also sat down with the girl beside her. She smiled and said, "Look at our Jincheng. He's already nervous and is still sweating." Miss Jiang looked at Ding Jincheng a few more times, lowered her head slightly, and said softly, "Brother Ding is quite good. He's just a blockhead. He doesn't know how to speak." Madame Hu pretended to reprimand him, but she kicked him. At this moment, Ding Jincheng did not dare to speak. Although he did not turn around, he could feel the gaze behind him stabbing his back. Such a scene was not good to begin with, and even less so when Mulan's family bumped into it. Madame Hu called him a few more times. "Jincheng, Jincheng, what's wrong?" Chapter 301, Lacking Women So Badly, What's Wrong With You? "What did I tell you?" Madame Hu was furious. She reached out and pinched his arm fiercely. She said hatefully, "Do you know how much effort I spent to find such a good girl for you? How much effort did I spend to persuade Miss Jiang to agree to come and take a look?" Ding Jincheng's face flushed red. "Mother, stop talking. Let's go." He stood up and did not even bother to eat. He wanted to pull Madame Hu away. Madame Hu flung his hand away. "Why shouldn't I say anything? You refuse to admit that you're a blockhead. Bien Mulan has been dead for more than half a year, but you still." Since Ding Jincheng couldn't pull her away, he simply turned around and left. He felt that when Gu Yundong heard his mother mention Bien Mulan, she almost rushed over to beat him up. Madame Hu was stunned. "Hey, where are you going? Stop right there. Ding Jincheng, you're so capable. You angered Miss Jiang away. Are you trying to anger me to death?" "Mother, I've already said that I don't plan to get married now." After walking out of the restaurant for quite a distance, Ding Jincheng finally dared to speak softly. However, what she said made Madame Hu even angrier. "You still don't plan to get married? You're really going to anger me to death? You're already 21 years old, but you don't even have a child now. Do you want our Ding family to have no descendants? How great is Miss Jiang? She's 2 years younger than you and is from the county city. She only has one father at home. In the future, when you get married, everything in her family will be yours. Let me tell you, Ding Jincheng. You've missed Miss Jiang. You'll be a bachelor for the rest of your life. Think about it. How many people from Yongning Prefecture are dead this time, especially girls? There aren't many who came back safely, and even if there are, they've long been chosen by others. Although Miss Jiang has also been married and widowed, she's still young and beautiful. Didn't you see what kind of women old Madame Chao introduced to you 2 days ago? They were 25 or 26 years old and even had children. It simply angered me to death. It wasn't easy for me to persuade Miss Jiang to meet you. When she saw you, she said that you're quite good. What exactly do you want? Ding Jincheng walked very quickly. He really did not want to hear her continue to nag. Madame Hu stepped forward and slapped him hard on the back. Did you hear that? You want to anger me to death, you want to anger me to death. Stop right there. If you continue forward, believe it or not, I'll bang my head against the wall and die here. Ding Jincheng suddenly stopped in his tracks and walked back helplessly. Mother, don't be like this. I already said, I don't care.